Hello, my little TV children. If you're new here, welcome. You have entered the static and there's no escape. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any new videos because I watch a lot of TV. A few things before we get started. Number one, I was super sick. So if you hear that in my voice, I will, do my best to not sound disgusting. It seems like it's at the last leg, so hopefully soon. I just took a break and I needed to get back here to give you guys some content. Next thing is I would like to show everyone this super cute gift that my boyfriend got me. How adorable is that? It displays my subscriber count live. So if I were to maybe get to 15K, this would show 15 the second that it happens. Looking for a guy, but they don't want me. And I'm trying to figure out where to display it. Oh man, you can't see it at all. It just looks like a little red guy, but I think that's cute. And the final thing is to please don't engage with anyone that you don't like. Again, it's okay to not like them on the show, but crossing that line is something I don't want to do and I don't want anyone to do on my behalf or because of me. So I think that's everything and I need to move on because today we are beginning a very treacherous journey. Think of like the 7 layers of hell. As we get deeper, the worse it gets. We are finally going to be talking about baddies. So if you're new here, I watched every single Bad Girls Club season and the All-Star Battle spinoff on my channel if you would like to take a little peek. So I have avoided watching Baddies for a really long time because I've heard really bad things about it aside from just basic criticisms like it's boring, there's no purpose. I found those all to be true in season 1, but that is not just the main reason why I avoided the show. I will do my best to kind of get deeper into it, but alas, I'm not physically there, so I can only do so much. And on top of that, everything comes from maybe cast members, gossip sites. The cast members love to do lives on this show. I've had to watch so many lives. It was actually awful. But yeah, I did want to mention it because a lot of it is hearsay, allegations, but I do just kind of want to throw what I know out there because they are things that were talked about during the airing of the show. So many people have requested that I watch this show the way that I did my Bad Girls Club videos, but unfortunately, Zeus does not like that. So if you know about the whole copyright fiasco, feel free to skip this part. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will explain a little further. I always knew that watching the show on YouTube the way I do my other shows would be a really big struggle because every time that I'm on Twitter and I see a fight video, if I try to go back to it, it's completely disabled. And these are sometimes like 20-second clips. So I always thought like, damn, like, is it that serious? Is it that serious, Ma? At Lemmy? It's even more serious than I thought because as I was researching, I found a complaint that Zeus filed against another YouTuber that alleged damages sustained by Zeus were worth $150,000. Do you know how insane that is? Mind you, this guy was watching like an Erika show. So basically what YouTube does with copyright takedowns is if the copyright holder decides that they don't want this video that has their copyright material to exist on YouTube, YouTube has to take it down. The YouTuber can dispute that takedown, and in order for it to remain taken down, the copyright holder has to submit proof that legal proceedings have begun in regards to this. Because if you're filing a takedown, you have to prove that it's now a legal matter, and YouTube does not want to deal with that. And if you don't know, copyright takedowns result in copyright strikes on your channel, and if you get more than 3 within a 90-day period, goodbye, you're terminated. I am a personal victim of this because I got my Attack on Titan video taken down, so I still have beef with Productions IG. Hate you guys so much. So given that I would have more than 3 videos using this material, I just know it's going to result in multiple copyright strikes, resulting in my channel getting terminated. It's just not something that I think is worth it. It's just YouTube's rules. So I figured, okay, since I can't do a reaction video, let's just do a video talking about it. So here we are. I know a lot of you were super excited about that, and I was too. If it makes you feel better, I would have had to blur a lot of the show out. And what I didn't have to blur, honestly, was just so ridiculous and boring. So you didn't really miss much. But if you want to take a peek at what you could have had, I do have a Patreon. Going into the season, I was very unaware of the drama that all these cast members had. I went in completely blind. I had to do my research for this show, and the only reason I want to include it is because this amateur-ass show provides zero context, and a lot of the show needs this context for it to make sense. Because when I was watching, I was sitting there like, what is literally everyone talking about? I will spare you from having to watch a million lives and read a bunch of rants like I had to, and I'll give you a very brief summary on what happened. It's 2020, it is COVID times, and someone who you may know by the name of Blueface Baby started his own OF show. It was called Blue Girls Club. I think it was just like a bunch of girls trying to win his love or whatever, except that it was an OF exclusive, and I did read somewhere that the price tag was $25. I only found like little clips of it available, and it seems more like vlog style rather than like show. That's how it remained low budget and exclusive. And this idea caught the attention of someone who we have met before many a times, Miss Natalie Nunn. She kind of bit off this idea and wanted to create her own OF show of former Bad Girls Club members called the Bad Bitch Reunion. I did find a link to the first episode if you guys want to take a look. I will link it in my description box. But before we get to that, there is a little bit of drama, of course. The Victor twins, Danni and Gabi, and Erika from season 9 were also a part of this project. They were dropped without notice, and they were also locked out of the account, meaning that they didn't have access to the earnings. According to the three of them, Natalie was very adamant on making this as low budget as possible, meaning no actual full episodes, no production team. The cast members could film on their phones, and they would also invest their own money and then split the profits. Danni, Gabi, and Erika didn't like this idea because they felt like the fans are going to be paying for a subscription, so they deserve something with more effort, like full episodes. Natalie was against this because it's not a reality show, and they already have their money, the fans' money. Some fans have already subscribed because there was an exclusive voting for who was going to be on the cast, which Erika, Danni, and Gabi clarify that it was not legitimate because the cast was already chosen prior to this. So they get cut out, and they say that they are each owed $1,600, and they were planning on making their own version of the show, but I do not think anything came from that. While Natalie was defending herself from all of these allegations, she mentioned that they do have a production team, Zeus Networks. So the Bad Bitch Reunion moves on without the three of them, and it includes Natalie, Sarah, Christina, Jada, Rocky, Tiana, and I believe Tanisha, but she was a little bit more behind the scenes. Again, I only saw a really small portion of the show. In one of Jada's lives, she mentioned that Zeus completely overtook filming the show. They refused to film with the other production team, which makes me think that although the other cast members were a part of making the show, they didn't really have much say when Zeus stepped into the picture. I'll give you a little brief summary of what happened in the first episode that I watched. It's kind of relevant, but I also just kind of want to tell you like the messiness of it. They all arrive to this house. Jada picks out a basement room. Someone else tries to claim it, and then an argument starts about who's getting the room. It escalates because Jada heard somebody say that they were going to touch her stuff, and then Sarah, who was there, was like, I don't touch anybody's stuff. In fact, you guys touch my stuff, which we saw. Natalie jumps in and tries to punk Jada and is like, actually, no, I'm staying down here. You're not. We know Jada, she doesn't really back down, and they literally fight. And that's pretty much the first little snippet that I watched. There is more drama that gets brought up in another Zeus TV show called The Conversation. Literally, I know. This is why I haven't been able to get into it, because I felt like, okay, I don't know anything that's going on. Like, I didn't want to put in the effort to find out, and it was a lot of effort. But I'm here now, and we're gonna figure this out together. So the show, The Conversation, is just that. It's a conversation supposed to be between two people just kind of talking out the issues that they've had. Except for the Bad Girls Club, they decided to bring on pretty much everyone who was involved with the Bad Bitch Reunion: Christina, Natalie, Shannon, Jada, Sarah, and Rocky. This show is so chaotic, and it has issues that I saw also on Baddies ATL. I'm really hoping that these issues get fixed on later seasons. I don't know how I can deal with this because the cast only grows and grows from here. Basically, everyone's mic is on. They're talking over each other, and then you just hear everyone's conversations at once, but also at full volume because they don't isolate the mic. That makes it super difficult to figure out what is actually being talked about, but I did my best. So some highlights are Rocky and Shannon wanting to do this with Natalie, even though Natalie has talked poorly about the both of them, because regardless, Natalie is about her money. Dare I say, at the end of the day, Natalie is about her money. I don't even want to talk about how many times that phrase is said on this show. I can't. Christina is upset about what others have said about her. Sarah is upset because she did so much work and she barely got any credit for it. She tries to give Natalie a check that she says that she's owed, and Natalie just rips it up because she's like, you're not about to sit there and pay me the money that I made. Like, I pay you, you don't pay me. Showing a very clear hierarchy in Natalie's head. Shannon will not stop touching Natalie for some reason, and it gets to the point where Natalie gets up and tells her to stop touching her or they're going to fight. It is rumored that she was perhaps on substances. This also gets brought up because Natalie accuses Jada of having substances in the bathroom at the house that we saw on the Babish's reunion. And Shannon actually says, no, they were mine. Prior to that, Natalie was very adamant. Jada, they were yours. He kept saying, they're not mine. Once Shannon admitted, no, they're actually mine. Then all of a sudden it was, well, I don't give a fuck regardless. And that is a pattern that I picked up only watching these Zeus Network shows when it comes to Natalie. Once she gets proven wrong, all of a sudden it's, I don't care. But prior to that, she will go to war because she thinks that she's right. I'm also reevaluating a lot of the things that she says now because I'm realizing that that's just something she does when she gets caught up in something that isn't true. Another example is that Natalie called Sarah ran through and said that she got pregnant 5 times and terminated 5 pregnancies. Sarah is just laughing about this because she's like, what are you talking about? That's literally not true. And then after it's like, okay, well, I don't even care. I also will note that in the beginning of this, she mentions that these are my coworkers, they're not my friends. Jada and Natalie actually end up fighting again on this show. Truly, it was so boring, so chaotic, so drawn out, and honestly a waste of time. Nothing was resolved. Nothing was conversated about. I watched it at 1.5x speed and it still took me half a day to get through, but things leave off with Natalie only cool with Christina. Okay, now that we established a little bit of backstory, we can finally start Baddies ATL. We immediately get introduced to the cast members with the regular intros of I'm the baddest bitch, everyone loves me, blah, blah, blah. And we see that not everyone from the Bad Bitch reunion made it to Baddies ATL. The cast is Natalie, Sarah, Judy, Evan, Christina, Janelle, and we are introduced to Sydney Starr. According to her, she is one of the most popular African-American transgender females in the entertainment industry. And she says that she was a replacement for season 9 of Bad Girls Club. If you're not aware, they have a bunch of replacements lined up. I don't know what number she was, but she says that she was supposed to be a replacement. Unfortunately for her, Natasha was on the season, and once we got Natasha, we didn't really need any more replacements. Then we see Tanisha, who was very hesitant on doing this project because it's lockdown. She wanted just something to do. So here she is. Her and Natalie are both EPs, while Christina and Sarah, they're producers. We get the intro and they all look so good. But Natalie, I don't know why she did this, but it kills me. Wait, hold on. I'm gonna do it. It's very Disney, except for the slips on this show. I just don't understand how they're filming and not a single person on set is like, oh, fix your shirt a little bit. Natalie's is literally out in the intro. The photo shoot that they go to is for the intro. We saw the set. There's plenty of people there that could have just told her, hey, you have a little bit of a slip. Natalie is the first to arrive at the house. I really like it. It gets clowned all season for looking like a haunted house, but y'all know I love those. Natalie FaceTimes Sarah, which I could have swore they ended off not friends. Sarah does clarify that her and Natalie just go through plenty of ups and downs, and currently they're cool. She also says that they had a falling out in 2015 because Natalie left her in a different country. So it seems like their little off portions aren't super serious. We'll see. But Sarah's down the road and she pulls up with Judy. Judy has her little witch broom because we all know she's a voodoo queen. Judy does mention that this experience is weird for her because her and Natalie are also very on and off. I will say this is a very common theme with Natalie and her friendships. There have been a few people that have come out and said that they don't feel like she's the greatest friend to them. Natalie tells them that they all have their own rooms except for Judy. She takes him to Sarah's room and it's so nice, has its own bathroom. Natalie takes Judy to her room where she finds out that she's going to be sharing with Sydney. Judy doesn't take this well at all. Natalie says that she was very unaware of all these issues that they're having, and the reason why she wants them to share a room is because one, she thought that they were cool, but also two, on Bad Girls Club, everyone shares stuff, so it's a way to initiate Sydney into the club. Yeah, I'm sure that's why. It is my opinion that Natalie knew they weren't friends, and someone else's opinion too, as we find out later on. Judy, however, confirms that they are not friends and that she will be sharing a room with Vienna Sausage, and she's very upset about it. Christina and Sydney arrive, and Sydney is just so excited because she's always wanted to be a part of Bad Girls Club. Christina tells us that she doesn't really think that Natalie's her friend, which, okay, already starting someone who doesn't feel like Natalie is the greatest friend. At least she's aware. She doesn't seem to have really an issue with it. Natalie takes Christina to her room and then takes Sydney to the shared room with Judy. And Sydney is looking super excited until Natalie leaves, and that's when she just gives Judy a death stare. Judy says in her interview that she doesn't even know why Sydney's here, especially because all she does is lie on World Star Hip Hop and tells us to just Google it. So, okay, Judy, I Googled it. This is what I found. This was posted on September 20th, 2011 on World Star Hip Hop, titled "Lesson to All Thirsty Dudes. Sydney Star, parentheses, a word I will not say, tricking these New York youngins in Times Square. They have no idea." In the video, they're all just gassing her and, touching up on her. Here is an article detailing the derailment of rapper Chingy's career. According to this article, in 2010, Sydney, who was a fan, asked to take a picture with him. Sydney then created an entire relationship from this one picture, and at this point she was already known as transgender. But when the 2010 public heard about this alleged relationship, it ruined his career. She admitted to lying about this in 2012, but at this point it was too late. He lost his label, friends, and any momentum that his career was starting to get. And this is all because Sydney wanted her name to get out there. This is what I'm assuming that Judy is talking about, because she brings up Sydney ruining Chingy's career a lot during the show. Next to arrive is Seven, who says that her and Natalie connected because they are both moms. Seven is the most recent bad girl that we saw on season 17, the last season of Bad Girls Club. She had a little baby in between. Natalie tells her that Janelle probably will not make it because there's a snowstorm currently in Houston, and also that Tanisha is not here. They have a photo shoot in an hour, so they're hoping that Tanisha will show up there. Seven says that Natalie presented her this idea to, quote, get the bag and promote their businesses. This illustrious bag they keep speaking about is never confirmed on this season, but let's just hold on to promoting their businesses until later on. Seven decides to go to Tanisha's house before the photo shoot. At Tanisha's house, I'm not sure if this is actually her house or they just rented like a little Airbnb for her, but she confirms that she is a business gal, so she decided to do this project. The stipulation being that she doesn't live in the house with them. She also says that her and Natalie are still on rocky terms because of a blow up that we hear about in a later episode. The baddies arrive to the photo shoot and they all look so good. They do a little cheers before getting on set, and things seem fine until Sydney happens. Sydney makes a snide comment about Judy's makeup, so Judy calls her a man. She confronts Judy about doing her dirty many years ago. Allegedly, Judy called someone on the production team for BGC and told them not to cast Sydney, specifically because she is a trans woman. She claims that because of that, she was no longer an original. She instead became a potential replacement, and as we saw, she wasn't utilized. Judy's response to this is, Sydney, you're a dude. Natalie tries to stop her, but Judy just feels like they're just coming at her. And she also tells Sydney that she, Judy, was the one to help Sydney get onto this, meaning the Baddies project. Sydney denies that. Christina also tries to tell Sydney that Judy did not call anyone, but Sydney says no. A casting associate for Bunin and Murray told Sydney that that's what happened. But Judy's like, you tried out for seasons 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and I was only known from season 7, so how could I have possibly had a say? Sydney just reiterates that, no, but for season 9 specifically, once I finally got casted, you made the call, which then prevented me from getting on the show. Sydney says that Judy said that if they cast Sydney, then she would boycott the show. So that's how she claims that she was able to actually get her to only be a replacement on the show rather than an original. Sydney's just really hurt about this whole situation because her and Judy were really good friends back when they were in Chicago together. And she also admits that she would drive Judy home even though she was also drunk, which don't admit that, girl. That's insane. Judy thinks that all she wants to do is just paint her as big to ruin her career the way she ruined Chingy's career. We move on from that. Tanisha shows up and Natalie tries to kind of cheers with her, but Christina's just like, Tanisha, the unfollow, really? So there's just like constant problems everywhere, and we will see that unfollowing is a big deal to Tanisha because someone else does it to her. But yeah, I wasn't able to find out why Tanisha unfollowed Christina. The photo she was able to proceed, and we see that it was for the promotional material for the show and also the intro. Sarah goes to Natalie to complain that she's going last. Evan is like, I offered you to take my spot, but you said it's Black History Month, so I don't know. Sarah's like, okay, fine. And then she just goes to do her shoot. But Natalie wants to FaceTime Janelle, who, as we saw earlier, couldn't make it because of a snowstorm. Then Sarah gets really upset about this because she's like, I'm going last. There's no music and none of you guys are even hyping me up for this. They kind of tell Sarah like, all right, fine, whatever. But they still call Janelle, even though Sarah's still complaining about it. And we find out that Janelle is going to make it by 9 a.m. the next day. But Sarah is still annoyed after her solo shoot because now it's time for the group photo and she is upset that she is on the end. I personally feel like, yeah, girl, of course you'd be on the end. You have like, you have assets that you need to show off. Why would you be in the middle? The shoot is over and now it's time for Natalie and Tanisha to discuss whatever. Tanisha immediately is like, there's beef. And in her interview, she's like, everyone dances around Natalie, but I, Tanisha, refuse to do so. Tanisha also calls Natalie scamily. Basically, the drama started because of this project because they had different ideas. Because of that, they both said some crazy ass shit about each other. Natalie just wants to move on from it because she thinks that if they don't move on as EPs, none of the girls there will move on with them. And then in her interview, Tanisha's like, we don't actually have beef. Tanisha just keeps it way too real. And it's like, all right, sure. Truly, this season is just a constant back and forth with Tanisha. And I feel like it's because she keeps trying to do her little host shenanigans, but it doesn't really work when you're having just a regular conversation. They start screaming at each other about wanting to make money, but they just agree to talk about the issues tomorrow. Tanisha leaves and we see Natalie break down, which we don't really see her do because as we saw on season 13 of Bad Girls Club, according to her,
people's feelings, I really don't give a
she literally sobs in the dressing room and then goes to talk to Christina, Sarah, and Sydney. Natalie is screaming at Christina about Tanisha because Tanisha spoke about her mothering skills, her family, and also faking COVID. Sydney, though, feels like her issues with Judy kind of sparked this, but Tanisha wasn't even in the room. We will see that Sydney likes to make every situation somehow either about her or related to her, even though she's not involved. Natalie also says that if Tanisha doesn't calm down, she's gonna beat her ass, which... whoa. The next day, Natalie goes into Sarah's room. They talk about what happened last night. They acknowledge how back and forth Tanisha is with the both of them. Like in the photo shoot, she'll act like they're fine, but then if someone gets too close, she'll be like, oh my god, don't touch me. So it's really hard for them to read Tanisha. And I would agree, literally just based on the very short interactions she has on this show. Natalie says Sydney and Judy also do that because they were so cool, but now all of a sudden they're fighting. The main issue that Natalie wanted to bring to Sarah was the fact that she brought her glam team to the house, but they're only doing her glam and they'll be touching up the other girls. Janelle finally shows up and she is just so upset because the airport lost her luggage, so she has nothing. She does mention though in her interview that she has been seeing all the shit talking online, and I'm just sitting there like, why does anyone outside of the show know what's happening in real time on the show? That's insane to me. Natalie tells her that she has her glam team here and she's more than welcome to use them because she wants Janelle to just feel comfortable. So then she takes her to her room and tells her who else is here. Janelle is like, who is Sydney? But Natalie says that she was a replacement that Natalie wanted to give a chance. In her interview though, Janelle says that she has heard of her, but all she's gathered is that Sydney is very theatrical and extra. Christina is now awake. She is very, very upset about not having hair and makeup. She says what's good for one should be good for all. Natalie says that Christina walked into where they were getting their makeup done and just started grabbing her makeup artist's products to use for herself. And on top of that, Natalie is upset that Christina called Lemmy, who was the CEO of Zeus Networks, upset about the situation. And according to Natalie, Lemmy was just like, get the fuck off of my phone. You know, in a regular corporate setting, you do not go over managers' heads to talk to the CEO directly. That's why they have department heads to deal with those things. That's basically what Christina did. So that's why everyone's just upset with her. Natalie also says that Freedom, her makeup artist, had to chase Christina down to get payment for a previous time that he did Christina's makeup. Christina hears this and starts calling Freedom a liar because he's like, you got paid. Why are you acting like you didn't get paid? And Freedom's like, no, but the problem is that I had to chase you down. And Christina's like, no, you didn't. We find out later on that he kind of did. I think Christina's more upset though that Freedom told her no, he can't do her makeup, but then she sees him doing Janelle's makeup. But Janelle already came in full glam. He was just touching her up. And Christina's like, I literally just asked you for a touch up. But no, she says herself that she wanted to get her makeup done, not just a touch up, but because of the issue of how long it took Freedom to receive payment from Christina, he just doesn't want to do her makeup. And Christina does admit, okay, yes, it took me a minute, but we were in the middle of filming, that's why. And then she also calls Freedom a bitch. So Freedom is just like, no, I'm not doing it. Christina then goes into Seven's room and tries to decompress a little bit while Natalie finishes getting ready. Natalie goes to Sarah and says that Christina's very entitled for someone who only did one season back in whenever season 9 aired. I think it was 2010, 2011. But she's annoyed at the way that Christina spoke to her makeup artist, so she wants to go talk to Christina. She confirms the story about not getting paid properly by Freedom. And when she confirms everything, she goes to talk to Christina. Natalie goes to Christina's room and knocks before getting in there and is like, I'm not trying to barge in. Like, you guys know I always knock, whatever. And she tries to explain to Christina, I don't want you guys to look bad. I'm not doing this because I want you guys to look bad. And she tries to explain like the situation with why she has makeup and the others don't. But Christina zeroes in on the fact that Natalie said, hey, I like to knock. I don't want to barge in. And she's like, no, you do barge in actually. You always barge in. And Natalie's like, no, I don't. But like, that's not why she's even there. So the fact that Christina's zeroing in on that is just so dumb to me. This just completely escalates and Christina starts to get a little bit hyped. So then Natalie gets hyped and then Christina's like, Natalie, calm down. And then Natalie's like, no, you calm down. And Christina hits Natalie's arm and they start fighting. But then we get a next on. They love doing these on this show. It's so irritating. Things pick up right where they ended. They're fighting. They scuffle a little bit. Christina has a little scratch here, but she ripped off the wig that Natalie just had installed, and you can see like the red marks from the glue that she just ripped off. Christina mentions the fact that she snatched Natalie's wig off at least 10 times. Every 2 seconds, it's like, yeah, but you got your wig snatched, right? You got your wig snatched. It's like, okay, you snatched off a wig that was just installed in her head. It's not that big of a deal. But then on top of that, she throws the wig out the window and then is like, I snatched your wig and threw it out the window. And it's like, oh my God. If you guys watch the show, please just rewatch that episode and just see how many times she says it. She also keeps saying that she cracked Natalie right in her face. And to be honest, Natalie looks perfectly fine. While again, Christina has a scratch on her face. Things start to get a little bit more personal though. Natalie calls Christina broke. And then Christina says that Natalie goes to Dubai to sell and cheat on her husband all the time. But then Natalie's like, okay, well, you get by your boyfriend all the time. Insane escalation on both ends. At this point though, security is in the middle and will not let them get through to each other, but we do see that security is a little bit more heavy on Christina's side, which to me showed a clear difference in power on the show. Natalie has just a lot more freedom than the rest of the cast members, which I think they have a hard time accepting because as we saw, they were a part of this whole project from the very beginning. It's just an interesting thing to point out. Janelle and Seven go to talk to Christina Christina, and Christina says that Natalie isn't her friend, she's just her business partner, which, okay, at least, you know, it's the same relationship both ways, but that this whole situation is Natalie's fault because she tried to eat Christina with her words. Back in Natalie's room, Sarah's asking Freedom. Christina said that she asked you to use her stuff. Is that true? And Freedom's like, no, she never asked. She just started touching it. You can hear Sarah say like, oh, cool, another lie. As much as I shit on them for not isolating those mics, at least there are these moments where I can pick up on certain things and certain conversations. Again, because everyone's mic is just full blast. But I did mention in my video that you kind of feel like you're in the drama because like it's just so chaotic. But Natalie says that all she's trying to do is stick up for her people because they're not going to be the ones to say anything to the rest of the cast members. She has to. Christina asked Seven and Janelle how they would feel if they're just talking to somebody normally and they just start getting loud and in their face. Like, what would they do? Christina was extremely hostile from the start. And Christina asked if she's wrong, and because she asked, I will say yes, because she's the one who came off really hot, escalated it, and then also threw the first punch, which none of it was necessary because Freedom didn't do her makeup, and she admitted that, okay, yes, I didn't pay you the second I was done. This was just a huge tantrum that didn't need to be thrown by a, quote, 31-year-old woman. Christina then goes on live, and I did see a little live of her that seemed like it was in the same makeup. I can't really confirm. The specific live that they show is absolutely fake. There's no comments. I don't even think the live started yet. All she does is talk shit about Natalie on this live, and then she does like this fake goodbye, which I thought was so funny because you can tell she was like gonna let it die down, and somebody was like, say goodbye. She's like, love you guys, bye. This fake goodbye is just so funny. I wish so bad I could show it to you guys. Moving on, it's time for Sydney and Judy drama. Sydney is looking for Judy throughout the entire house, and then she slips on something on the floor. Judy finally comes in, and the first thing she says is, if you hit me, it'll be domestic violence. But then we find out why she's mad. Last night, Sarah and someone else recorded a situation on their phones where Judy spit on Sydney for being, quote, disrespectful. She says that because she can't hit her, that's the only way she could physically disrespect her. In the van, this is after the photo shoot because Natalie's still wearing her pink dress. Natalie takes a bottle of water and just throws it on Judy like, who are you spitting on? Why are you doing that? And she says that she will kick her out. Like, she's really upset about this. Sydney calls Judy pumpkin, which, guys, we watched that. Judy, though, says that everyone knows that she can't fight. So if she's getting physical, it's because she was pushed to that. She is an adult at this point, right? Like, it's time to take accountability for your actions. But it's really funny because on the van, Judy's saying that Sydney can't hit her. And then you hear Seven like, nope, but if she did, like, she wouldn't be wrong. Judy says that she's not going to let her ruin her career like she ruined Chingy's career. And this gets Sydney upset that she throws a drink on Judy, or tries to, because most of it lands on Seven, who's sitting on the floor watching this. Seven throws her drink back, but after that, she actually takes this extremely well, so good for you, girl. Judy calls Sydney a man again and tells her that she will never be a bad girl, which, like, drag. She's on the show Baddies. She's a baddie at this point. Like, let this whole Bad Girls Club exclusivity go. No one cares about that at all. Sydney threatens Judy the same way Tasha threatened her on her season, but Judy's like, I'll just get my lawyer on you. And Judy, girl, bidding on someone in the state of Georgia is considered battery. So you admitting that you did this, I personally, if I was Sydney, I would have pressed charges and then sued you civilly. And then Judy's like, if I sued you, you didn't have any money. So even more reason for someone who got spit on by her to start a lawsuit against her to get all the money that she supposedly has, right? Judy keeps making fun of Sydney, and then Sydney snatches her drink and spilled it. So then Sarah comes in and is like, Sydney, you need to clean this up. Like, this is ridiculous. But Sydney refuses to. Sydney then says that they would think that Judy was the blank because of the way she looks and how deep her voice is. If you want people to not call you that or call you anything adjacent to that, don't call other people that. I think it's weird to call anybody else that. But then she just walks away and slips on the drink on the floor that she spilled. Seven calls Tanisha to come over, and when she does, Seven and Janelle tell her about what's been going on. They tell her about Sydney and Judy, and Tanisha's like, what? Judy has zero say in casting. But then Seven clarifies that, well, she called and said that she thinks that she would be a liability on the show. Tanisha just isn't convinced of this story. She doesn't think that it happened. And then they tell her about Christina and Natalie fighting, and Tanisha's just upset because she keeps trying to play like this mom role that she always does. And at this point, it's dragged out. You're barely here. You don't even have that relationship with the girls. Like, they don't see you as a mentor. They just see you as someone who doesn't even really like them like that. I think she should just be an EP and keep it at that. They decide to have a house meeting in the kitchen. At the house meeting, Natalie tries to start and say that she's doing this to bring everyone together, but Christina is tipsy and will not stop interrupting. It's so annoying. In the start, she just keeps saying, no, I'm ready. Like, I'm staying ready. It's really something if you make Natalie seem like the level-headed one. Natalie tries to explain that she isn't trying to fight Christina over hair and makeup, but then Tanisha's like, well, no, they want to look good, and you know that social media is going to come for them if they don't look good, which in turn is going to make them come to the EPs, Tanisha and Natalie, and be like, why are you not making sure that I look good? But no, they're just going to Natalie because you're not there. She then blows up on Natalie and is like, you definitely provoke Christina. So Tanisha immediately takes Christina's side because she doesn't like Natalie. Janelle jumps in and is like, well, the only reason I got makeup was because I lost my stuff. Seven also says, yeah, I also got makeup because I just lost my makeup bag. Then Sarah tries to defend Natalie and is like, I'm literally Natalie's best friend and I didn't get makeup and I'm not complaining about it. And Tanisha's like, oh, you guys are friends now? Sarah, you're just so fake. So now Tanisha feels some type of way about this and then storms off yet again. Seven and Sarah try to chase after her and Sarah's like, I'm a producer and I'm not sitting here bragging about it the way you do. Tanisha takes this the wrong way, but then she just storms back into the kitchen. She sits down again and asks Natalie why they fought because Christina's supposed to be her sister. They have both called each other just business associates and coworkers. Like, it's not that anymore. And Natalie's like, I do stand up for them though. So then everything shifts to Sydney and Judy. Tanisha tells Judy that she was wrong for spitting on Sydney and needs to apologize for it. Judy's like, I did already. And Natalie's like, no, you did not. And starts screaming at her. They kind of leave that be and try to have a conversation again, Natalie and Tanisha. Then Christina interrupts by slamming a stool onto the floor for no reason. Natalie once again tries to continue her sentence of, I'm trying to bring everyone together, but Christina interrupts again because she's taking off her earrings to stay ready. Tanisha tells Natalie, regardless of how your makeup artist felt, you should have sided with Christina. No, if Christina is wrong, she should be told you are wrong. But Christina does the absolute most. She's like, exactly. If you're eating, I should eat too. And it's like, what? Natalie then tries to say she was grabbing his products without asking. She can't even finish the sentence because Christina starts grabbing something and is doing like a literal song and dance about the fact that it was just a $25 foundation that she grabbed. So, okay, you're admitting that you grabbed his products. Tanisha also says though that Christina is Natalie's right hand and Natalie's like, my right hand? What? But to be honest, after the conversation, it kind of seemed like it. They were kind of clowning Christina for being Natalie's little lapdog. Regardless though, Sarah comes up with a solution. She says, okay, there's two EPs. One EP takes 4 girls and the other EP takes 4 girls. And they each take care of their group. But Tanisha gets so upset about this and is like, no, I just got this job. I don't have any money. So she doesn't want to pay for anything. Then she tells Sarah to shut the fuck up because she's so disrespectful and she doesn't belong here. And then storms out yet again. Natalie chases after Tanisha. Sarah's annoyed. Christina's talking about lips. Who cares? I'm gonna ignore Christina for the time being. But Sarah says that Tanisha wants EP credits so bad without doing any work. And yeah, you expect Natalie to fund these girls' hair and makeup as EP, but you're not gonna do literally anything because you have no money. What? Tanisha's just upset because Sarah disagreed with her. Like, she's so fucking childish. Anyway, though, Natalie's able to bring Tanisha back. They make everyone finally leave to have their one-on-one. Natalie tells Tanisha, look, we're able to work together without any issue. But Tanisha's like, no, you just forget everything that you said and brush past it. And she doesn't want to do that. Christina comes in yet again to grab a drink. And she does it in the most obnoxious way possible. And like, I was getting so annoyed. But here is the issue laid out. It was a back and forth thing. They both feel disrespected. However, the other said the same thing the other said. Tanisha says, you said something about my family. Natalie's like, you said something about my family too. Tanisha says, okay, my son though. Natalie's like, my daughter though. Tanisha's like, my fiance. Natalie's like, my husband. Tanisha clarifies that this started on the Bad Bitch reunion show. But then Natalie's like, no, it was because of this show. And then Tanisha's like, no, you just don't like me because I'm big. What? And Natalie's like, well, no, it's because you said I was a bad mom. And then Tanisha's like, oh, I know why you're mad. It was because of the live I did, which she literally mentioned at the photo shoot that this was a factor in why she was upset. On the live, supposedly, Tanisha brought up people that are against Natalie, and then Tanisha also accused Natalie of lying about having COVID. I have no idea. It really doesn't matter because then Tanisha pulls out a gift for Natalie, which is tiger balm. They both say sorry to each other though. And then Tanisha looks Natalie in the eye and is like, you are beautiful. This was all you. I'm always rooting for you. And this makes Natalie cry. And then they hug it out. Finally, that only took 3 episodes, but they talk about their ideas. Okay, so we're in episode 3 and we're talking about the ideas that they can do to get the bag. Those being a fitness boot camp, Baddies brunch, a talent show, club appearances, which is the only like legitimate bag, therapy, and that's it. Like, cool. Sarah goes into Judy's room where her and Sydney are arguing. Judy doesn't want to be filmed, but they film her either way. Sydney is trying to figure out a way to send Judy home, and then as soon as the cameras go in, Judy's like, Sydney, you're going home. They also keep arguing about who is the man. So fucking weird. Meanwhile, Sarah's just trying to get Judy to fix herself because as we saw on season 13, she needs people to tell her to fix herself or do it for her. She is not paying attention to Sarah. She keeps arguing with Sydney and she keeps bragging about being a fan favorite and how everyone's just gonna think that Sydney is dumb, which, I mean, they didn't really like her after the show, I will say. And we see perhaps why later on. Sydney is just still upset about her getting spit on, which I completely understand. That is just a disgusting line that you should never cross. But at this point, like, just leave Judy alone. Judy's never gonna admit that what she did was wrong. She's just gonna keep defending it. Clearly, you both disagree, so what's the point of arguing about it for this long? If she doesn't want to leave her alone about it, fine. But at the very least, stop saying the things to Judy that would offend you if Judy said them to you. Sydney drops it for now and goes into Christina's room. There, Christina is saying that she doesn't want to compromise her morals. Meanwhile, she's the one screaming and she's the one starting physical altercations. Either way, she wants to leave and Sydney's like, come on, it's only day 2. And like, guys, it's day number 2 and all of this has happened. Sydney's like, I wanted to take you to gay bars, you know, like my community. What Christina says is nice, but just like the way she says it is just so weird. She's like, yes, there is a deeper message, but once that message is delivered, then I'm going home. I mentioned she was tipsy, but no, I think she's trashed. She mentioned that she doesn't really drink that much, so the little she drank just took her over the edge, which I can attest to because I too don't really drink that much. And the times that I do, why am I blacking out? Finally, it is the next morning and Janelle and Seven are downloading about what happened last night. Christina, though, pulls up in the middle of this conversation and they're like, oh shit, speak of the devil. And Christina's like, how am I the devil? Girl. But Christina's explanation is just that Natalie just has an ego that Christina, when upset, can't really differentiate between just Natalie's regular self and this ego, which causes such escalated fights between them. But I will say Christina also has a crazy ego. Christina says that she didn't know that Freedom was exclusive to Natalie on this project because he's done her makeup before, and like I don't know how many more times things have to be explained to her. He's not exclusive to Natalie. He was already doing Natalie's makeup. He was touching up Janelle. He also did Seven's makeup, and on top of that, he doesn't want to do Christina's makeup because he did not like the way she paid him the previous time. And also he didn't appreciate the fact that she barged in and started touching his products. It's not about him being exclusive. He just doesn't want to do your makeup because of the way you acted. She says that she went in there and asked nicely if he can do her makeup. So okay, you didn't go in there saying, can you just touch me up? The answer is no. Janelle even says, no, you didn't come in like crazy. Once you didn't get the answer you wanted, things were a little bit heated. Christina's like, no, it's because Natalie wouldn't let him answer. And like, he tried. I heard him say multiple times, like, well, no, I had to chase you for my money and you were sitting there calling him a bitch. So maybe he just didn't want to argue with you and he was trying to be professional. I don't know. Kevin's like, okay, yeah, whatever about the makeup. But like in the kitchen, that was a completely different crazy. And Christina's like, no, I was just drunk. But they're like, no, girl, that was a little bit extra because you were carving in the word fake on a whiteboard. And then Christina says sorry to both of them for calling them fake. She didn't mean it. They accept it. It's really not a big deal. But now they want Christina to go speak with Natalie. And Janelle says that she will take it upon herself to get Natalie ready for this conversation. She goes to Natalie and Natalie agrees to speak to Christina, just perhaps not in a bedroom again. So Natalie and Christina meet in the living room. From jump, there's tension. Christina comes in eating some carrots. According to Natalie, she's just rolling her eyes. She's being very sarcastic, very dismissive, and she doesn't appreciate this. She's also upset because she saw Christina alive talking shit. Christina's like, you're always on live. And yeah, girl, you are. There's so many lives I had to watch that I didn't want to fucking watch. Christina also says that Natalie crossed the line because she reached out to Christina's ex, and Natalie's like, that was only for your own well-being. I don't know about that one. She keeps trying to talk though, and Christina is, according to Natalie, still doing her Christina-isms, which is the rolling the eyes, sarcastic, whatever. So Natalie gets annoyed, but they clarify that Christina got her makeup done by Freedom at noon, and she paid him at 7 p.m. that day, which Christina says it was because we were filming. But y'all have your phones. You could have easily done it right after you got your makeup done. The entire makeup situation, I think that Christina was just in the wrong. Just the way she approached it, handled it, things that she did prior, things that she did after. I'm gonna just say Christina was in the wrong for the entire situation. However, though, things get heated again and they both stand up and kind of just like shove into each other. Alas, to be continued. So we see the security got in the middle pretty quick, but someone from the crew, which I don't know if this is Lemmy. To be honest, I don't know what this man looks like. I think it's him. This crew member says, you guys don't have to sit down, but like, I want you guys to talk it out. Christina says, okay, fine, I won't hit anybody. And then like 2 seconds later, she tries to hit Natalie. The security gets in the middle though. It's so weird because they immediately decide, okay, let's just move on from this. Let's not let this get in the middle of the bag. So they just hug it out and things are cool. The next day, Sarah goes to Natalie's room and Natalie tells her that her and Christina resolve their issues, which Sarah feels some type of way because she's like, oh, so you're fighting and then you make up and I have your back while you're fighting and now you guys just make up. At first, I'm like, girl, why don't you just make your own decisions and not do it based off of what Natalie does? I think in Sarah's head, she's kind of just being a good friend to Natalie by sticking up for her and then feels dumb when it doesn't even matter because she just lets it go. I think it's okay to stick up for your friends in situations and then still be cool with the person you're sticking up against. Do you know what I mean? Sarah lets it go for now. They decide to get to business and have a boardroom meeting. Interesting. Before that though, Sydney goes into Seven's room and they have a very raunchy conversation that I cannot include on YouTube. Also because I don't want to. But I guess the main thing here is that Seven thinks the house is dirty, which I just wanted to mention because it comes up later on in like some type of way. Okay, so now it's time for the board meeting to discuss the bag. Sydney comes in last and is so extra with the drink in her hand, like yes, but Natalie shuts that shit real quick and is like, do you see me drinking? Do you see her drinking? I'm not gonna sit here and be disrespected by you having a drink. Sydney seems to be taking like a little back, like, oh, like damn. Perhaps the first time she got personal me Natalie attack, you know? But they talk about what they're gonna be doing. Okay, so first up is a baddie boot camp. And this is so that they can look good. But it's one day that she's talking about. And the girls are all down except for Tanisha. It's like, okay, we get it. Thank you. The next thing is a talent show, which not everyone is down for, but Tanisha mentions that she would like to see what they have to offer because the only time she really gets to know them is on the reunions. That's why she's so confused when like people don't like her, especially Sarah, because Sarah hates her apparently. And of course Sarah's like, no, what are you talking about? And then Tanisha's like, no, you hate my fucking guts. Why here? Why at all, actually? Like, why? Why do you need to bring these things up like this? It's so annoying. Anyway, the third idea is bring bringing in a therapist. So basically Laura the life coach, except I'm assuming they mean a legitimate therapist. And if it's a legitimate therapist and they're all okay with sharing their stories, whatever. I just had personal beef with Laura the life coach because she just kept making them write their problems on a mirror and lipstick. And it's like these girls would be like, oh, I'm actually like extremely traumatized because of my childhood. And she'd be like, so how about we don't feel like that? Ugh. Sorry. Danni takes this opportunity though to open up about how she struggles with self-acceptance and also her confidence. And then she tells us a story that I completely misunderstood the first time I watched this. I fully thought she said I tricked some guy into, but she said she tricked some guy, which just means like, you know, paying for it. It's like someone paid her for it. Someone went up to them afterwards and told the guy that, quote, like, you know, that's a guy, right? The guy she tricked was like, what? Very confused because he didn't know, which kind of confused me because in a later scene, Danni says that she forgot to tuck. That's so not important because after he found out, he then threatens Sydney's life, which is so sad and I think obvious that no one deserves that. Christina then opens up about her addiction. She was addicted to Percocets. We find out also that she was getting a tumor removed, which I had no idea about. After that, they prescribed her Percocets and she ended up getting addicted to them. On top of that, she also lost her mother to heroin addiction. It's just so sad. A traumatizing story from Sydney, a traumatizing story from Christina. So then Sarah takes this opportunity to tell us her traumatizing story, which is she gets upset when she doesn't get to speak because she feels like everyone else gets to speak, but she really doesn't. And it turns into Sarah saying that Natalie isn't a good friend, even though she's such a good friend to her, and she feels like people just treat her this way because she's always so nice. Everyone around her is like, girl, like perhaps a different time would have been better. Natalie says, I'm always there for you when your dog died. But Sydney interrupts because she's like, oh my God, I also lost my pet. I lost a cat who I saw as a child because I can't have children. Natalie and Tanisha are like, no, girl, like with all this new technology, like you can for sure have a child. And then they actually open up about having miscarriages. They too want to do surrogacy for any future kids. And then Seven's like, I loved being pregnant. Like it was the best time of my life. I would do it again and again and again. So then it turns into like, oh girl, like maybe Seven could be your surrogate. And then they kind of just start asking her how much she charges, and it just turns into like renting out Seven's womb for other BGC babies. Moving on though, Natalie says that this is the core group, but she would like to expand for later installments, which she definitely did. And they start throwing names out there, and one of them is Megan's. And Natalie doesn't really like Megan, but she knows that the fans like Megan, so she is open to having Megan on the show because, as we saw, Natalie cares more about money than anything else. Natalie also says something interesting. She says that the brand BGC was worth millions and the BGC girlies, got nothing, which is so true. Oh my God. It's the big motivator for this. They want to make those millions back for themselves. And we will see how that goes later on. Not this season though. Here we also hear her say that they're not going to let anybody else kind of take what's theirs and use it to their advantage, which I believe she was talking about Blueface doing the Blue Girls Club. They go out that night and it honestly looks lit. I did mention that this low-key is making me want to go to Atlanta. I've never been. It honestly looks so much fun. But then, of course, things take a turn once they get into the car to go home. In the car, Sydney and Judy are just arguing. Judy's trying to keep the light on. Sydney doesn't want it on. I don't think that's the main reason. It's just something that's happening while they're arguing. Christina tries to calm Sydney down, but then Sydney's like, there are all these fake bitches in this house. And she is being like very extra that a security guard, I think, sitting in the front seat, starts screaming at her, telling her that they personally will beat Sydney up if she keeps disrespecting the girls. They kind of use very rude language, such as, if you want to act like a guy, I'll treat you like a guy. But then because Sydney said that there are fake bitches in the van, Tanisha's like, wait, who? Are you talking about me? And then Sydney's like, maybe. And I thought she was talking to the security guard because, again, everything is happening all at once. I'm picking out separate conversations, but they're all happening at once. I thought Sydney was talking to the security guard or whoever, but in an interview, Sydney confirms that Tanisha asked her, like, who's fake? I'm fake. And then Sydney was like, yeah, maybe. And then she doubles down in her interview and is like, actually, no, I'm gonna say, yeah, you are fake, Tanisha. Whoa. While rewatching it, I realized she was talking to the security guard because you hear her say, I call everybody a bitch. And the security guard's like, no, you're not gonna talk to me like that. And then that person asks her something where she says maybe. She's very clearly talking to the person, not Tanisha. But then in her interview, she wants to act like she was talking to Tanisha the whole time. Because of the maybe, Tanisha flips the fuck out in the car and tells Sydney to stop disrespecting her, and to be continued. We're still in the van, and Tanisha is now saying that she will send Sydney home for disrespecting her. Tanisha is just screaming at her, and then Sydney apologizes eventually, but Tanisha is still mad. She tries to open the door to the moving car. Sarah tries to stop her, but then Tanisha tells the camera person to stop recording. So then Sarah's like, no, keep recording. And Tanisha's like, oh, you're EP? My God. And then she's like, yo, fuck Sarah. And Sarah just keeps it playful because you have to appease Tanisha in every possible way. Even when she's screaming at you and cursing at you, you have to be the one to be like, oh my God, stop. Otherwise, she gets upset even though she's the one being rude. The car ends up stopping and Tanisha gets out and tells Sydney, if you want to fight, you can step outside and we can fight. Sydney's not trying to fight. So she gets back in and they go get their food. The next day, Tanisha shows up to the house mad as fuck. Specifically though at Judy. We find out that it's because Judy recorded the fight that she had with Sydney in the van on her phone and posted it. So now, according to Tanisha, without the context, fans are now calling Tanisha transphobic for coming at Sydney. My thing though is, aside from this, why are they filming and posting stuff online? Like, I don't understand why 0 NDAs were signed, why 0 NDAs are being enforced if they were signed. Why are they just doing this and all they're being told is, hey, don't do that? Judy's only response to this is, but everyone else is doing it. It's so childish, it's annoying. But in her interview, Judy's like, I filmed it and posted it because I want everyone to see that I'm not the problem, it's Sydney. Everyone has a problem with Sydney. Judy does tell Tanisha though that she is extremely uncomfortable in this room with Sydney. But Tanisha's like, I have to talk to Natalie, the other EP, before any decisions on changing rooms can be made. Which is so weird because in the van, she was gonna send Sydney home without consulting Natalie. It's just weird, right? Tanisha goes into Natalie's room and we find out what was actually making Sydney so upset last night. She wanted to invite some people over after the club to the house, but they told her no. Then Tanisha tells Natalie that they have to move Judy out of the room. And Natalie's like, there's room in the attic. And Tanisha's like, I'm not sending her to the attic. She doesn't have a mother. And Natalie, a little cold, is like, we can't use that as an excuse for everything. And Tanisha's like, don't be like that. And Natalie's like, no, for real though. Like, how are you going to handle situations if that's the excuse all the time? She spit on someone. She's posting stuff without permission from us. Tanisha's like, all right, sure. And then somehow it turns into Sarah being an overbearing friend with Natalie. The conversation just keeps jumping around, but they have to figure out what they're going to do. Natalie decides, okay, let's just go check on the other roommates first. And the first stop is 7. It turns out that 7 actually does have an issue. She's upset because she can't do anything that she wants to do because all the time is taken up by all of these arguments. And on top of that, she found a black and mild and red hair in her sink, and as we saw, she already called the house dirty. So someone doing that is also just grossing her out and making her not want to be here even more. And it's like, why would she spend her time dealing with this in the sink and everyone just fighting when she could just be at home with her baby? Natalie and Tanisha agree, like, the sink thing is way too far, so it's time for a house meeting. In the house meeting, 7 starts and says that her doing this took a lot of convincing because she didn't want it to be like how it was on Oxygen, but she's finding that this is exactly the same as Oxygen. And then she shows what she found in her room. 7 asked Judy immediately if this was her because Judy has the red hair and she also uses that bathroom. Judy's like, no, I have my own bathroom. But even if she went in 7's bathroom, like, she still didn't do that. Everyone's like, okay, Judy, maybe you didn't do it on purpose, but I mean, like, you smoke black and mild and you have red hair. But Judy's like, no, like, that was not me. Someone is setting me up. Sydney has to jump in and say that she uses everyone's bathroom. It's like, okay, girl, no one asked. But they start talking over each other. But then 7 is just like, I need time to myself. I don't do well with, like, so many different personalities. She lives her life very specifically. And then Sarah jumps in and is like, no, same. I live my life really peaceful too. Tanisha asked Judy one more time if she put that stuff in 7's sink. And Judy swears on her parents' soul that it was not her. Tanisha then asked Judy, okay, do you think that anybody here would actually do that, and if so, who? And Judy's like, yeah, I think Sydney would do that and set me up. Guys, Sydney actually admits to doing it. I actually do feel bad for Judy in this situation because no one believed her to the point where she had to swear on her parents' soul. And I also feel bad for Seven because this was just at her expense because Sydney wanted some type of revenge against Judy. You already threw a drink at Seven. Like, why do you need to do now this at Seven's expense? Sydney does mention that she feels like she fucked up some type of relationship between her and Seven because of this, which I think so too. Janelle is also annoyed though because she just feels like Sydney's being way too extra. She says that Sydney just keeps causing drama and she calls her an actress. But then Sydney responds and is like, well, you want to look like me so bad. Janelle's like, you're forcing it. And I agree. Like, I think because she didn't get her Bad Girls Club experience, she's doing shit that would have been done at Bad Girls Club. It's not that anymore. Like, you gotta evolve with the times a little bit. So Sydney calls Janelle a Claremont knockoff. And then also says that people thought that Janelle was trans on her season. And it's like, that's not even true. They thought, from what I heard, they thought a trans girl was going to be on the show. And since Jazz was the last one left and everyone else confirmed that they weren't trans, they thought that Jazz was trans. And then Sydney also makes fun of Janelle's 30 inches of virgin Brazilian. And it's like, who cares about it? Season 11 out of 17. Some of the other girls kind of jump in and they're just like, girl, stop. Of course, now Sydney feels personally attacked. So she's like, oh, so I'll just leave since everybody wants me to leave, even though I'm the one who got spit on. And Natalie is like, I stuck up for you in that situation. You cannot expect to just have a free pass to do whatever to anybody else because of one person. I find her extremely annoying at this point, and like I guess she has a big personality, but like it's reaching levels of extra that like you can't come back from. And Janelle even says that Sydney told her that when the cameras come on, she may play it up a little bit. And Sydney's like, no, I never said that. I said, sometimes I'm a different person when the cameras are on. Like, is that not the same exact thing? She's just so used to being the outcast. Any little thing that is negative towards her makes her feel like the outcast yet again. They invited you, they have welcomed you, they've been nothing but nice to you, they've stuck up for you. And all they're doing is telling you that you are wrong in a certain situation. Are they supposed to just let you rock even though you're wrong for the rest of their lives? Friends tell friends when they're wrong. Wouldn't you want somebody like that to tell you when you're wrong so that you can be better? I don't know. Seven just wants to leave, but then Sarah's like, oh, okay, cool, because I had to clean up crumbs and I don't want to leave. Like, it's just annoying that because of this little thing, people just want to leave. She had to deal with stuff and she lives down the block. Her car is here, so she can just leave whenever she wants to, but she's not leaving. So it's just annoying that other people want to leave for something that she thinks is so little. So basically that Seven needs to just suck up whatever's happening to her because Sarah has had either equal or worse. But I think what Sarah's kind of not realizing is that Seven has an added layer of having a child at home that she would much rather spend her time with than doing whatever Sarah is willing to do. Tanisha just feels like she failed everyone because of this project. And I think there's no project. Nothing was finished and they're kind of trying to figure it out as they go, which makes everything so unorganized. Christina tries to just be like, you know, there are just much bigger things going on than crumbs on the floor. So Sarah's like, or like hair in the sink. She's just more upset that she was here from the start and she's here doing this. She's committed to this, and other people who joined late, didn't put any work in, are just so willing to leave it. Dare I say, kind of like how production acts when a girl that they don't want to leave wants to leave. Seven finally says something and is like, Sarah, if you want to go, you can go. But then they kind of go back and forth and Seven doesn't take this well. She almost immediately tells Sarah to watch how she's talking to her, and also that she would slap the shit out of Sarah if she didn't think Sarah would call the police because Sarah is white. Sarah's like, I've been in the most fights on Bad Girls Club. I think Seven took this as, I'm not scared if you want to try to slap the shit out of me, because that's exactly what Seven does. She jumps on top of Sarah and they start fighting. Security breaks it up. In doing so, they jumped on top of Sarah. So Seven was able to grab a chunk out of Sarah's hair. Poor Sarah once again got her real hair pulled out. Sarah is livid because security jumped on top of her, so she wasn't able to defend herself, and she is just screaming. Seven goes upstairs and says that Tanisha told her that Sarah was talking bad about her, and they don't really clarify what this is, so I'm not really sure what was said. It wasn't really that. It was more so the disrespect to Seven because of what Sarah said, like, I've been in the most fights. But again, I think Sarah was saying, I've been in the most fights and I've never once called the cops. But again, Seven took it as, I've been in the most fights, so do something about it. Sarah at this point is trying to get into Seven's room and is also saying like, oh hey, you hit me, you can go home since you want to go home so bad. She is trying to get to Seven somehow. Natalie is trying to convince Seven to not leave and stay, which Sarah feels like is a betrayal on Natalie's part because Sarah always sticks up for Natalie and she feels like Natalie isn't sticking up for her even though she's the one who got attacked. Seven says that she didn't want to do it, but she feels like she was pushed to do it. And even though it was a misunderstanding, regardless, it was complete overreaction. In Natalie's room now with Sarah, Sydney comes in and is telling Sarah like, you didn't see that coming? Like, I saw that coming a mile away. And it's like, girl, like, why are you telling her this now and at all, actually? Like, wrong place, wrong time, wrong statement, all wrong. Sarah says something interesting that I would like to hold on to. And she says that all Seven does is sit around and look pretty. She doesn't do anything with her life. Interesting. But yeah, at this point, Sarah just wants to fight again. It doesn't happen. The security is way too packed. Back in Seven's room, they're just talking about how Sarah can't listen to anybody else's problems without also interjecting, even though there is no correlation. And then Sydney walks in and is like, do you need this? And then just like shoves rubbing alcohol towards Seven. Like, why can't you just like not be involved in something? I don't understand. But then Seven says about Sarah, like, you're EP and you're talking to me like that. And then Christina's like, Tanisha, she's EP, question mark. And Tanisha's like, no. I mean, on the credits, it shows that she's a producer, so I don't know if she's EP or not. I have no idea. Sarah wants to pack Seven's stuff and just get her to leave, but Natalie is not trying to do that. Sarah is very relentless. She keeps telling Seven over and over again that she can just go home, she can leave. Natalie sent her home. Tanisha sent her home. She can go. It's a lot. Tanisha's like, no, I can't do that. Like, there's a pipeline. I have bosses, blah, blah. Again, interesting because she told Sydney she was just going to send her home as the EP. Guess what happens next? Tanisha feels overwhelmed, so she tries to storm out. However, the person stopping her this time is Sydney, who refuses to just leave her alone because she thinks that Tanisha's just gonna leave. Tanisha's saying, no, girl, I just need some time. And Sydney's like, no, like, I'm not gonna leave you alone because I don't want you to leave. And it takes like a lot of convincing to finally get Sydney to leave Tanisha alone. Tanisha eventually comes back though and tries to get Sarah to go somewhere else so that Natalie can have a conversation with Seven. So while Natalie's with Seven, Tanisha's with Sarah, Sydney feels like, okay, they're getting attention, they're getting attention. How do I get attention? I'm gonna go find Judy and fuck with her. Literally what she says. And she goes to the room to fight with Judy. Now she's saying that the night before, Judy locked her out of their room. Judy actually snaps and starts screaming at Sydney to just leave her alone, which Sydney doesn't do. She keeps telling her that she has something between her legs. So then Judy throws some juice at her and now Sydney's like, I can't take this anymore. And it's like, girl, you started it. Why did you start it yet again? You literally said, where is Judy? I'm gonna go fuck with Judy. Like, you cannot keep doing this. Like, I get it, she got locked out of her room last night, she's upset about that, but then discuss that in a different way, not when everyone's fighting. Because then it just seems like it wasn't that big of a deal. What the big deal is that you just want to fight with Judy. Then Sydney storms out of the room and says, okay, y'all won. Y'all got the trans girl out. I'm leaving. I don't know who they are because the only person that wanted her to leave was Judy. At the house meeting, they literally told her they don't want you to leave. They want you there. So, like I said before, just another ploy to somehow get attention. Meanwhile, with Natalie and Seven, Seven says, if Sarah really wants to fight, I can just put on some finger gloves and we can go outside. And Natalie's like, no, please don't do that. Like, it hurts, like, that you guys want to fight. Like, it hurts. Which is hilarious given how the show goes on. But Natalie is here trying to figure out what to do to help Seven want to stay. Like, how to make her feel comfortable. But Sarah interrupts yet again to the point where Seven just kicks the door closed to just get her to leave. And then Sarah's like, really, Natalie? She just kicked the door in my face and you're not going to do anything? So then Seven and John are like, damn, like she is really on your shit. It's crazy. Tanisha then goes down to talk to Sydney to calm her down because she's upset that people want her to leave. And she tells her, like, we're trying to figure out like how to accommodate you. Like, you didn't even know, but we were trying to figure out how to get you and Judy separate rooms. And she confirms yet again, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay here. We're not attacking you. Clearly, Sydney just wants to feel accepted. So Tanisha is giving her these words of affirmation to make her feel better, which work, and she convinces Sydney to stay. Natalie agrees to give Seven a hotel room for the night and also have her bathroom cleaned, and promises her that she will not have any of her stuff touched. I thought this was so nice of Natalie. Again, rare from Natalie. After this, Seven actually starts to cry, and I know this cry. It's a cry that you just cannot hold back because you just feel so overwhelmed, dare I say anxious. For me, these cries lead to panic attacks because that's how bad they are. Her anger just got the better of her. Meanwhile, Natalie goes down to Christina and Sarah to talk. She tries to get Sarah to understand why Seven feels this way. Seven didn't do anything for the show the way that the three of them did. All she did was show up. So to her, having this dirty sink is a big deal because she didn't sacrifice the way that the three of them did. These are Natalie's words, by the way. She doesn't understand what a big deal actually is, something that they would face behind the scenes. So Natalie tells Sarah, like, just let her complain about that. Who cares? Sarah's upset because she feels like she can't speak up without it being a problem. And Natalie kind of has to just tell her straight up, like, you want to be a producer so bad, like, this is what being a producer is. You have to take on these complaints, but also not complain yourself. Like, look at me and Christina, we fought and I'm still here, like, with her, because that's what you have to do as a producer. I guess of a show like Baddies, not really any other show, because I cannot imagine the other producers like physically fighting with each other. But that's because the producers aren't also the stars of the show. But Natalie's like, you should just go up to her room and apologize. And Sarah's like, I'm not apologizing for anything. I didn't do anything. But they agree to figure something out. It is, dare I say, the start of a new day. And Sarah comes in with a wig and a fractured finger. She also shows her hairbrush to show us how much hair she lost during the fight. And Natalie says that she has something to lighten the mood, which is boxing and bull riding. Janelle talks to Seven, and Seven immediately is like, what happened last night wasn't my fault. I'm gonna say it was because you swung first. But she says that she just got really upset and couldn't control herself. And also that she threw a phone prior to hitting Sarah as a warning. But if you actually watch the episode, she threw it, gave Sarah like a second to even react, and then jumped on top of her. They also point out that for the house meeting, Sarah came in dressed in sneakers and like a lounge set when typically she's always dressed up. So this could have also factored into why Seven may have felt like Sarah's energy was that of do something. I don't know. It's just a regular ass lounge set. Like, they're not doing anything. They're just in the house. But in my notes, I have as a platform needs improvement. And that's because every single time I wanted to pick up where I left off, I had to search Baddies ATL on Zeus to find the episode I was on because there's no continue watching. It was so annoying. Christina is getting glam, but this glam team is Sydney's glam team. So she kind of playfully presses them about like doing someone else's makeup. Christina says that she appreciates Sydney giving them her blessing, and the makeup artists say that Sydney will always come first. It's like the way they are really greedy with their makeup team is just so funny. Sydney's like, oh no, since it's you, Christina, it's okay. But if it was Janelle, then no. So it seems like from the house meeting, Sydney feels some type of way towards Janelle. But they talk about the fun day they're gonna have, and Sydney is excited to potentially box Judy. So let's go to the main event. Tanisha pulls up, and there is a bouncy castle and a mechanical bull. Natalie says she is tired of everybody fighting about whose body's the best, whose is the best. And then the rest of the girls come out, and Natalie once again is like, y'all are getting way too competitive about whose body's the best, who's the best. So they're just gonna box it out. And specifically, Judy and Sydney are gonna box it out for the room. So whoever loses has to go upstairs to the attic. Natalie says once again, Sydney, you keep talking about how your body's better, how you're better. Like, we get it. Oh my God. Judy says, well, I feel uncomfortable with her in my room. And Natalie's like, so then get her out. I fear the real Natalie is starting to slip through the cracks. But Judy doesn't want a boxer, so she chooses a champion, and she chooses Janelle. Before that fight, though, Natalie and Tanisha hop in to show them how it's done, and Tanisha just falls over and takes down the entire bouncy castle, including a camera guy that was in with them. And now it's time for Janelle and Sydney to box it out, and it's gonna be intense because Sydney feels some type of way towards Janelle. She wants that room because she feels some type of way towards Judy, except that it lasts perhaps a minute and Janelle wins pretty easily. Like, it seems like Sydney didn't even try, which I feel maybe she just doesn't want anyone to tell her anything if she actually sat there and tried to box Janelle, you know? But it was just funny because she was like, I'm gonna fuck her up. Seven and Christina also do a little competition and Seven wins. Next is bull riding, and I mentioned it in my other video, but I refuse to get on these because I always feel like the operator has ill intentions and I don't want them to make me look some type of way. I don't trust them. They try to get Judy on it and Judy doesn't want to do it, so Natalie's like, what do you even do? How are you even the baddest? Like, damn. The whole episode's pretty much just this, and I do mention that, like, if this was a real show, they would have cut out, like, them struggling to get in or them just walking in because it's just filler, but no. This show includes every single step taken from point A to B, even though it's the squiggliest line of paths and unnecessary. It was a fun day. Everyone had fun. Cool. Moving on. That night, Sarah goes into Seven's room for a chat. Sarah tells her about getting her hair pulled out, shows her the brush, shows her medical records from the hospital because of her fractured finger. Apparently, when security jumped on top of her, her nail got pushed in. Oh my god. Seven says that since they don't really speak, maybe what she was saying to her was misconstrued. And Sarah's like, yeah, I kept my distance because I was hearing certain things that were said about me. Seven does say, though, that she should not have hit Sarah and that she needs to stop reacting that way when people say something that she doesn't like, which, girl, please. Seven apologizes to Sarah, which is so cute. Then Sarah also apologizes, and Seven's like, why are you apologizing? They make up. It's cute. What a happy ending. It is Sydney's birthday. She calls a friend who is none other than Megan from season 9. They plan on Megan coming out for Sydney's birthday, not only to the club, but also to the house. Sydney asks Megan how she feels about Tanisha and Natalie, and Megan says that Natalie's like, whatever, but with Tanisha, there's a little bit of problems. Seven, Janelle, and Christina are in a pool room of sorts, and they're just talking about like what's been happening, and then Sydney pulls up and they tell her straight to her face like, you're a little extra, but they're kind of saying it like kind of playful, but the whole situation is like a little awkward, and I completely forgot it was because there is tension between Janelle and Sydney, which Seven does bring up. She basically just says like, you keep kind of messing with my friend and I don't like that, but Sydney just keeps it to like, well, you know, I'm a little jealous because I'm supposed to be the girl with all the surgery, and I feel like you came in with all the surgery and like overshadowing me in some way. And the conversation is just so like, it's just so weird and honestly so extra. It doesn't need to be a conversation. Like, it's truly ridiculous. But regardless, Sydney invites them to her birthday party and also tells them that she invited Megan, but she didn't ask for permission from the EPs. Seven's like, what are you gonna do when they find out? And Sydney's like, I'm gonna just tell them this is my friend, it's my birthday, and I can invite who I want. So we'll see. Natalie's in her room and Sarah comes in. So Natalie's like, oh my god, okay, what can I do for you, Sarah? What would you like to complain about today? And poor Sarah's just like, I don't like the way you speak to me. And Natalie's like, girl, I don't like dealing with all these complaints. And as she's talking, Sydney comes in. So Natalie's like, oh my god, okay, great. Sydney, what can I do for you? Sydney tells Natalie that she needs to talk to her. So Sarah, sorry, but you gotta go, which I thought was weird. Like, Sarah was there first, let her finish her conversation, and then you can jump in after. But Sarah doesn't leave, and she brings up the fact that Natalie wanted her and Sydney to have a joint birthday party, but Sarah's like, her birthday was like 3 weeks ago, mine is literally this week, and Sydney's like, no, mine is literally today. Like, my birthday is every single day in February. I'm just like, are you fucking serious? So earlier when she was talking to Megan on FaceTime, Megan said to Sydney, happy early birthday. But now here's Sarah saying, my birthday is later this week. Sarah's birthday is in March. Online, it says that Sydney's birthday is February 5th. It was the last week in February. But I feel like it's just another thing that Sydney just has to be so extra about. Sydney tells them that she invited Megan to the house, and Natalie's like, no. She says she can come to the club, but she's not coming to the house. Sydney's like, no, you don't understand. Like, she's literally on her way. Like, she's gonna be here. But then Natalie calls Tanisha, and Tanisha's just like, no, come on. So Natalie's like, you know what? I need to go to your house and just talk to you in person. And then Sydney's like, no, like, I need to talk to Tanisha. Don't hang up. And then Sarah's like, no, you can hang up. Goodbye, Tanisha. I don't understand. Like, Sydney, you have your own phone. Call Tanisha yourself. Why do you need Natalie to not leave and stay with you so that you can talk to Tanisha? I don't understand. And Sydney's like, okay, whatever. Well, regardless, Megan's still coming. And then Sarah tells Natalie, like, do you see how everyone else disrespects you? Like, I never do that to you. In the car on the way to Tanisha's house, Natalie calls Sydney about a flyer that was sent to her. This is a flyer for Sydney's birthday, but it has Megan's face on it. And Sydney's like, yeah, I had it made because Megan is coming. And Natalie's upset because she's like, Megan doesn't even support the show. Like, why are we gonna do this thing for the show and have Megan on it? They hang up, Natalie gets to Tanisha's house, and there they discuss Megan. Natalie's like, it's not about being scared of Megan, it's just that Sydney thinks she can just do whatever she wants. Tanisha's like, yeah, and plus we didn't even initiate Sydney, so it's like, why is she even doing all this? Which is like so weird, because then you're telling Sydney to her face, like, no, like, girl, we already accepted you. Like, you're in. Like, come on, you're part of this. This is what I mean. Like, it's a constant back and forth. It's annoying. We learn here, though, that Megan was supposed to be a part of the show. Like, she was a part of the promo, but she ended up not doing it. Not only that, but then Megan unfollowed both Natalie and Tanisha. And as we heard earlier, Megan doesn't have an issue with Natalie. She just doesn't like her. But she does have an issue with Tanisha. And it's just interesting that Tanisha takes this so personal, this unfollow, when Christina said that Tanisha unfollowed her. Interesting. Again, once it's done to you, it's like, oh my God, how dare you do that? Natalie then tells Tanisha about the flyer, and Tanisha has a really big problem with this because she has a manager, so does Natalie. So they need to be aware when they're doing these events because they have contracts, they have commission fees, like they need things to be done a certain way. And the final issue comes up when Natalie shows Tanisha Megan's Instagram story where she posted a screenshot of a group chat between Natalie and the other cast members, basically complaining about Megan showing up to the house. And Megan posted the screenshot and was like, oops, somebody's mad. And then her other story is her getting to the house. Tanisha offers zero insight on this and is just like, Natalie, you're gonna get your ass beat for talking so much shit. And it's like, what does that have to do with anything? Also, like, I said this in my video, but like, Natalie is not like some little ass girl. She's not like Amy from season 1 where you can just pull a tie and, you know, like win. Natalie is much bigger. She's taller. She's athletic. She's muscular. Like, I find it so annoying how they constantly keep saying that Natalie's gonna get her ass beat. Because she's annoying doesn't mean she's gonna get her ass beat. Natalie also says that Megan has beef with literally everyone because she's so miserable. So Miserella allegations in 2021 is crazy. Tanisha and Natalie just agreed to go back to the house and talk to Megan and sort this out. At the house, we see Megan pull up with balloons for Sydney. Christina greets her and Megan, like, her face just screams Miserella. It's so funny. But now it's time to download. So she talks to Sydney and Christina about everything that's been happening. And Megan immediately is like, Sydney, I feel like you're the one starting all of these issues. And Sydney's like, perhaps because I'm plotting on serving Judy breakfast in bed. That was done on season 7. You do not need to do it again, I promise. Megan completely ignores her and just tells them about her issues with Natalie and Tanisha, calling Natalie a non-factor, but saying that she has legitimate issues with Tanisha. Christina says that Tanisha is acting so different now. She's trying to be a bad girl. I don't know if I agree with that, but she is just trying to keep this like weird motherly fairy godmother role that is just not applicable anymore because they're no longer like newbies. They're kind of a little bit more established. So trying to constantly act above them, which Natalie also does, but in a more subtle way. Tanisha's a little bit more in your face about it. It's just, it doesn't work anymore. But Sydney tells Megan they're in the other room, so we can go talk to them when you're ready. Megan is a little hesitant because she feels like she could possibly get jumped and she doesn't really trust Sydney, which is weird because that's your friend. Like, that's the reason why you're here. Sydney could be a friend to Megan, but but the fact that she's also friends with them is like worrisome. She agrees to just go with Sydney into the room. Natalie and Tanisha are in the boardroom, and Sarah asks them, are you guys gonna go to Sydney's party? And they're just like, no. But can you actually go get her? And Sarah, the poor little assistant, runs to go get her, but then sees Megan. And Megan and Sydney both enter. And Megan just like, hi, girl. Sydney and Megan sit down, and Sydney says that the point of this was a sisterhood and that they should be able to come together and support someone's birthday, even though it's not actually your birthday. Natalie's like, you just sprung this on us. On top of that, you're creating so much drama. Even so, we've been supporting you throughout this entire time, and then you just go and do this. Megan's like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on here. And Tasha's like, no, you hate my guts for no reason. And Megan's like, no, there is a reason. But she addresses Natalie first, and we find out that they used to be really, really close friends, which crazy because of the way things ended off between them. All-Star Battle season 1. Basically, they were besties. Like, they would always call each other about their boy troubles. And then for Natalie's baby shower, she ended up not inviting Megan. So because of this, she kind of just let Natalie go as a friend. Natalie says that the reason why was because Megan was beefing with some other lady, but this lady made Natalie's wedding dress, so she was gonna make her baby shower dress, but because she had beef with Megan, she was like, oh, I can make your dress, but like, I don't really want to go if Megan's gonna go. So in that moment, Natalie made a decision to invite the person making her baby shower dress as opposed to Megan. She says that she was gonna explain this to her, but Megan had already blocked her after sending her a long message saying how she felt. But my thing is, if you guys are such good friends, why not give her the heads up? Like, hey, I'm really sorry I can't invite you because of blah, 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 blah. Honestly, I still probably would have cut a friend off because, like, if we're that close and someone else is saying they don't want to show up because of me, why do you then not invite me, but invite them? Like, I feel like the more reasonable thing is inviting the person that wants to go as opposed to the person that doesn't want to go. You know what I mean? Like, she was willing to just make you the dress and not go, but you still chose to invite her over a friend and then not even tell her that she's not invited. She just finds out that she wasn't invited after it happens. Megan's like, yeah, I just don't really deal with fake shit. So I'll get to you, Tanisha. And Tanisha in an interview was like, damn, like I've never had anybody call me fake straight to my face. When she thought Sydney was calling her fake, she was ready to fight her outside. But with Megan, straight to your face and not a storm out to be seen. Interesting. Megan says that the screenshot made her think that like there was an issue of her showing up to the house, and Natalie's like, no, it was mostly just the flyer that we had an issue with, which let's hold on to that as well. I promise you, like these things will come up later on. Tanisha then tells Megan she has no idea why she's calling her fake. And then Megan's like, oh hey, you wanna know why I unfollowed you? And then Tanisha's like, no, I know why. And Megan's like, oh, that's so weird because you just said that you have no idea why. I was so happy she said this because she does this all the time. She did that with Natalie when they were fighting in the kitchen. She told her why she was upset. It was live. And then the whole time she's like, I don't even know like why you have an issue with me. Oh, I know why you have an issue with me. It's like, pick a story. We find out allegations later on, a reason why perhaps she kept going back and forth, and it's kind of juicy, guys. So we'll get to that too. Oh my God. This part did confuse me though, because Megan says that she always saw Tanisha as a friend or a mentor. Megan explained to her why she couldn't do the show and then asked Tanisha to make sure like she has everything said and done. She was looking out for her as a friend there. I really have no idea. They know what they're talking about, so they're speaking, hey, so they're speaking in like this weird code. What I'm picking up though is that Megan couldn't do the show because of a separate contract that she told Tanisha about, but then Tanisha told, I guess, somebody else about the reason why she couldn't do it, which was divulging details of Megan's contract that she didn't want out there. Tanisha's like, Megan, if there was issues, you could have just called me. Megan's like, why would I call you? You talk too much for me to tell you literally anything. So Tanisha's like, oh my God, like you've never made a mistake. Literally, like within a second, they just squash everything and they kind of do a COVID, elbow touch, and they're off to the party that they weren't going to go to. And this is because the party is the bag this time. So at this point, we know what the bag is. It's this party. So the bag is more important than this drama. At Sydney's party, everyone shows up, including Tanisha and Judy, except somebody's missing, and that is Megan. Oh my god, Megan is missing. Saucy Santana's also there, and we meet him later on in the series because I think he hosts one of the reunions. But while they're, hosting, Sydney actually passes the mic to Judy so that she could say her voodoo line. In her interview, Judy's shady about it, which is like, it's just so annoying. But then Sydney, while having the microphone, calls Janelle a knockoff Claremont twin. Everyone was just like, what? In the car on the way home after the party, Sydney is upset because Megan ended up not showing up. And then she turns straight to the camera and is like, you are fake, Megan. This then turns into Sarah being upset. And then Tanisha's like, Natalie's not your best friend. And like, I'm just okay. I mean, like, this kind of comes up later on, but not really. The next day, Sydney, Seven, Janelle, and Natalie are on the basketball court. And Seven tells Sydney, I don't like how you shaded my friend. And Natalie's like, yeah, if Janelle hits you in the mouth, I'm gonna let her. Whoa. Natalie also says, like, who is even telling you that Janelle wants to be a Claremont twin? And Seven's like, yeah, Janelle was this is so shady, but she says when the Claremont twins were still Janelle's skin color. Natalie also says that Sydney was for sure the person who sent that screenshot to Megan, but he's like, no, it really wasn't me. And then Sarah pulls up and is like, it definitely wasn't me. She shows up with some waist trainers for the Baddies boot camp that they're doing today. And then Christina shows up, who says that she also didn't send the screenshot. And then they all laugh at Sydney's fanny pack that she has on because she's covering the fact that she didn't tuck, which I mentioned way earlier on in the season. Sydney's like, I'm not trying to work out because I went out last night. And Natalie's like, yeah, you snatched my wig off too. But then Sarah's like, yeah, and you're still up her ass. And this gets Natalie so angry. She's like, why do you always have to involve yourself? Like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, she's up my ass. So what? Like, why are you trying to start a fight? And Sydney's like, yeah, you tried to start a fight last night too. Again, like, so much drama happens outside of the show. I don't know everything. I'm sorry. Sarah tries to explain herself. Sarah's kind of like, well, you just told me to stay out of it, but then you're getting involved and it's me and Sydney's issues. So then Natalie's like, I can get into literally whatever I want. I don't like it. So I'm saying something. But then Natalie's just like, whatever, let's just go to Baddies boot camp. At the Baddies boot camp, they're just doing a training session with a trainer, and it's so fucking stupid. Judy didn't show up, Tanisha didn't show up, and this trainer just keeps like like the entire time, just like, please stop. But Janelle and Sydney are feeling him and they do not leave him alone. Janelle keeps telling him, like, I need to be stretched out, like, not that way, but like towards the end she says it that way and it's just so graphic. Then Sydney flashes him in the training session in front of everyone, and it's the most awkward thing ever, aside from it just being like weird, because Sarah mentions, like, I don't know why they think that like they can't sexually harass somebody just because they're women and he's a guy. Like, you're still sexually harassing him, and yeah, you are. Aside from that, Sydney flashing him, I got zero reaction. Like, zero. It's like their faces are killing me because they do not give a fuck. That was literally that. And I was sitting there like, oh my god, I could not believe that happened. Yeah, this whole session they're just like messing around, and Sarah's in the back like, yeah, this isn't a real training session, like, what are we doing? This isn't a real workout, this is so dumb. That's the point. Like, they're just fucking around, like, it doesn't matter. And Sarah just takes it so serious. But after 10 grueling minutes of working out, it's over. This was the Baddies boot camp, by the way. That night, the house is lit up in neon light. There's a stripper pole in the middle of the living room, and Natalie tells Tanisha it's time for a twerk off. So this is the talent show. They call the girls downstairs, and I'll fast forward some of the performances because it's just like them being shy about it, which same. I don't know how to do this. I did want to point out though really quick that Sarah is wearing a robe. They were told to dress sexy, so Sarah decided to put on a little silk robe. But on her season, when Gigi had her company over, she came out in a robe and she was like, oh my god, it's not even a big deal, just a robe, like, what's the big deal? But now she's choosing to wear a robe to be sexy. I just think it's a little interesting, guys. Here we find out that Judy actually went home. Her dog was sick, and after she got home, she's having a tough time coming back to this. It's actually a horrible environment for her, especially sharing a room with someone that she doesn't like and it's constantly antagonizing her, but also someone who she also says horrible things to. So yeah, I'm glad she went home. The way it was just like, hey, Judy's home anyway. Crazy. So some of them go up. Natalie makes it rain, and then she actually goes up and says that she has the fattest and realest ass in the house. IDK. Because on season 13, I wouldn't say I'm a BBL expert, but there are signs that I notice, and BBLs are very invasive. They leave a lot of scarring. I can tell when someone has a lipo belly and also when the thighs don't match. I saw hints of that in Natalie on season 13. She denies it though, so who am I? But if you're asking for my opinion, I believe she got some work done, and so does somebody else. But so far, everyone has gone except for Sarah, and if I had to give somebody best performance, it would have to be Janelle. It's Sarah's turn now, and she goes up there, does her thing, but unfortunately, Sydney isn't feeling it. She is shouting out how bad she's doing, how little rhythm she has, and how trash the performance is. Sarah gets so angry. Like, this is probably like the angriest I've seen her, because when she was fighting Seven and she was angry about the security guard, like, she was crying. It was a different type of emotion than just anger, but this is just pure anger. She tells Sydney to shut the fuck up. The only reason she's even getting this much money is because Sarah is splitting it with her. She even shoves her a little, like, Sydney, you're so annoying. Like, she went, everyone, hyped her up. She did her thing. Not everyone likes her, but they're still nice to her. But then when Sarah goes, she has to be the one to bring her down, even though the other episode, she's like, this is a sisterhood. We have to uplift each other and support each other for a birthday party. And also, this is just for fun. Like, Natalie is throwing the money. It's probably just like their budget. But it ends with them screaming at each other. They're still arguing, but Natalie stops it by getting Tanisha to go up to the pool. And Tanisha doesn't do a twerking thing, but she does kind of do her little moves, which I really liked. But then Sydney ruins it yet again by coming at Sarah. They tell her to stop, everyone put in great effort, like they're splitting the money, just have fun with it. And it's like, why are you singling out Sarah for doing a bad job? Meanwhile, like, Seven and Christina didn't do a good job on purpose. It's not really their thing, but like, objectively, that was a bad performance on their part, but you're only attacking Sarah. I wrote here that my the end of the day counter has been completely exhausted, so I'm just gonna say it's been 100 times. Natalie then brings out real performers, and I can't really go into detail, but I will say they did their thing. After it's over, Natalie tries to give it up for the baddies, and everyone's clapping excited except for Sarah, who is upset. I thought perhaps because of Sydney, but she then says that it's because Natalie has not been a great friend to her. And she is literally crying about this. It feels like Natalie isolated her by saying that the other girls were talking about her when they weren't. Examples, Christina and Seven. Everyone around her, though, is just like, oh my god, here she goes again. But Natalie's actually says, Sarah, I value our friendship. I will try harder in our friendship because it does mean something to me. It sounded really genuine, especially because of how she acted on the basketball court. It's hard to say though, moving forward. We end in a little group hug and it's cute. The next morning, I think issues started prior to the camera crew even getting there, so it starts with pure chaos. Sarah and Natalie are screaming at each other, and this is because Sarah gave Natalie too little amount of toilet paper. But while they're arguing, we hear Natalie say, I don't gotta f these men, and Sarah's like, well, you do anyway. Whoa. Okay, so this is what happened, according to Natalie. Natalie ran out of toilet paper. She needed some. She saw Sarah walking by. She was like, yo, can you please hand me some toilet paper? And Sarah gave her a singular sheet. Like, toilet paper, a square. She gave her a square, according to Natalie. Sydney's in the background trying to hype Natalie to beat Sarah's ass. It's annoying. Stop. Sydney then goes into Sarah's room to try to antagonize Sarah and is like, everyone's tired of you, no one wants to hear, like, just being annoying. And we find out that this was because of an altercation that happened the previous night that was captured on Natalie's phone when she was live. On the live, Sarah is screaming at Sydney saying, you're sitting there lying, calling me dirty when everyone knows I have the cleanest house here, and just cursing her the fuck out. And then back in the present, Sydney's like, everyone's tired of you, no one wants to hear. And Sarah's like pointing to Janelle and Seven, like, they don't look tired of me. Are you guys tired of me? And they're not. Dare I say that everyone's tired of Sydney? I personally am. They just argue back and forth, and Sarah literally kicks her out of her room, and finally security, like, gets in the middle and doesn't let Sydney back in. 7 leaves to go talk to Natalie, and then Janelle stays there to talk to Sarah. And in Sarah's room, it pans to the floor where we see the alleged toilet paper that caused all this commotion. It looks like more than a sheet. It looks like she kind of wrapped it around the hand perhaps 4 times. It doesn't seem like enough. However, the way Natalie is saying it, like she disrespectfully gave me a sheet of paper. That looks more than a sheet to me. But Sarah's like, I'm not about to sit here and give her my last roll of toilet paper. And then when I need it, I have to go into her room and get whatever's left. I cannot believe I'm like dissecting this conversation, but whatever. With Natalie, she keeps saying that it was just a sheet and she's very particular about her toilet paper. She's been just using whatever is here, even though when she travels, she either brings a specific kind or she goes to buy the specific kind. Sydney's still there telling Natalie to just fight her, but Natalie's like, no, she's the type to sue people. And because she knows what she has to lose, she would know exactly what to take from her. Natalie says that last night she was even talking about it because Natalie was saying that she doesn't be going to court, she just sends her lawyers, but Sarah allegedly was like, I love going to court. But then Sarah overhears this and is like, I did not say that. Natalie's like, yes, you did. Then Sarah just closes the door. She's like, that's not true. We find out again later on, like what she said that maybe Natalie misinterpreted. Tanisha then shows up and storms upstairs wanting to talk to Natalie urgently because someone caused the bag to drop. Tanisha then calls Natalie madam and says that she knows exactly what's going on here. Given the later allegations that Natalie has against her, like this happening season 1 is just so weird in hindsight. Tanisha then goes into Sarah's room and tries to punk her, and Sarah's like, no, don't talk to me like that. And good for her because it's annoying the way she acts. I hate it. Tanisha. Sarah tries to explain what happened regarding the toilet paper, but Tanisha's like, no, not that. Did you break girl code? But Sarah has no idea what she's talking about, or she claims she doesn't. Tanisha is telling Janelle and 7 it was a pleasure, and then Sydney barges in and is like, yeah, tell Sarah off because she disrespected me last night. Tanisha just leaves and Sydney follows her. Sydney will not leave Tanisha alone, so security has to get in the middle and get her away from Tanisha. Tanisha tells her to just leave, which I've been saying for a minute, but Sydney's like, I'm a part of this too. And like, yeah, you're a part of the show, but you're not a part of the situation, so leave. She goes back into Sarah's room, again says bye to 7 and Janelle, and then wishes Sarah the best, but says like, this is probably the last time we're gonna be talking. So it just seems like she doesn't want to keep trying with Sarah for some reason. Then Natalie brings Janelle and 7 to her patio with Tanisha, even though Tanisha just said bye to them. Natalie tells them it's not just about the toilet paper. There's also some girl code issues. Janelle says, what specifically though? And then Tanisha's like, no, I'm not saying anything. But then Natalie clarifies what happened. So last night they were in the kitchen. It was her, Sydney, Saucy Santana, and some other people just eating pizza. And then Sarah came downstairs just to argue with Sydney. Like, she didn't even eat the pizza, according to Natalie. And this went on until 6 in the morning. When she finally got upstairs, Natalie found out that Sarah was doing something against girl code. And that could be anything from your friend talking to someone you like to your boyfriend, etc. But I'm just like, unless it was Jacob, her husband, I'm not really sure who Natalie could be talking to like that. That Sarah talking to them would be a problem. What do I know? I tried to look this up. It seems like maybe Sarah was talking to like a specific crew member that Natalie had an eye on. I don't know. I just looked it up and that was someone's theory. I'm just relaying it because it's really the only thing that makes sense to me. Unless it's not even about Natalie, it's about someone else and Natalie just feels some type of way. But truly, I have no idea. If you have an idea, let me know. But the next morning is when the toilet paper thing happened. And that's why it escalated so much. But here Natalie says once again that no, that paper that Sarah showed Janelle was not the paper she gave her. She says that she, again, gave her just one square. I just find it hard to believe, like, okay, Sarah gave you a square and then went back into her room, rolled it up, threw it on the floor. It seems possible, but is that really something she would do or even care to do? It was still clearly not enough, so it's not really helping her situation. It will forever be a mystery. Sydney comes out on the patio and Tanisha just runs inside because she does not want to deal with Sydney. Later that night, Tanisha comes into the living room to talk to Natalie, where they agree that this project is going nowhere and they need to end it. They call the rest of the baddies over and they tell them that it's over. No bag was acquired and Tanisha is sobbing because she really, really wanted this to work. Christina's also crying because she's been there from the start, so seeing that it failed is just like heartbreaking to her. Sydney acknowledges that she wanted to be here so bad, but she feels like she messed it up too. And Tanisha's like, yeah, you did. You came at Janelle for no reason. Sydney apologizes to Janelle. Sarah once again feels like she was isolated because of the lies Natalie told. Natalie's like, no, I haven't lied about anything. I haven't done anything, actually. And then says that everything on Sarah is fake. So Sarah then says, you got your lip injections, Botox, and lipo in 2014. You got ass injections in 2015, but Natalie just completely denies this. But she's very specific. She's like, I never got ass injections, but nothing on Botox, nothing on lip injections. Interesting, nothing on the BBL. And Sarah's like, you bash everyone for plastic surgery, but you got your entire body done. If she actually is denying it, I don't know why. Like, I'm such a supporter of plastic surgery. I feel like you should do whatever you want to your own face. Like, it's not a big deal. I don't know why people like make it such a big deal. If anyone gets a nose job, plastic surgery, whatever, I'm like, yeah, good for you. If that's what you wanted. Natalie's like, yeah, this is over, but we're going to be going out to the club. Sarah's not going and she just packs her stuff because she's going to Miami. She says that she is done with Natalie. She's breaking up with her. I think though this is the last time that she says this because it has been such a back and forth with them. Like, it needs to end. And that is the end of Baddies ATL. Now it is reunion time, and there is a lot of context missing yet again from this reunion, so I will do my best to try to fill in those gaps. It's a lot, and it's all thanks to Sarah, Miss Queen of Receipts herself, because she released multiple videos prior to filming of the reunion. I think like near the day and on the day, exposing so much stuff. But at the reunion, Christina and Sydney are getting ready, and Christina says that she saw Natalie in cornrows, and then Tanisha says that she saw her in some scrubs. Seven and Janelle are also getting ready, and they say that they didn't really feel like even coming because they didn't see a point until Miss Sarah released all of her receipts. So now there's a reason why they're here. We then meet one of the hosts, Jason Lee, and I do not like this man. He threw a drink in Hazel E's face during an argument on Love and Hip Hop, I think. And ever since then, I'm just like, ew about him. I just think that's such loser behavior. Feel like he should pick on someone his own size. And I think if presented with the opportunity to do so, he simply wouldn't. This is coming from someone who doesn't really like Hazel E like that. I just think it's so whack. Jason tells Natalie everyone's talking about her because of what was posted. He also asked her, do you feel like you betrayed them? And Natalie's like, they're not my friends. Which again, this entire time about being sisters, bullshit. And I'ma say it's bullshit moving forward. In Sydney and Christina's trailer, Sydney says that she heard what Natalie said about her and her feelings are hurt. We meet the next host, Tamar Braxton. Jason tells Tamar that he is going to be asking all the questions that the fans want to know, especially regarding what Sarah released, even though Natalie specifically asked not to mention that. The reunion starts and we get a performance from the guy who sings the intro song, and it's just so funny because there's no audience. Natalie just cracked me up. It was just so awkward. The hosts greet the baddies and Judy says, I love you guys so much. Immediately, Sydney's like, well, do they love you? Give it a rest, please. They acknowledge that someone isn't there, and that is Sarah. She didn't show up to the reunion, and everyone pretty much feels the same way. They're like, she definitely should have came. Sydney and Seven both say that Sarah had mentioned to them that she had audio that she was planning on releasing, and in this audio, it was Natalie talking bad about some of the girls, but they didn't believe that she would actually do it. She ended up doing it. So we're going to talk about what they actually were. So this is from Sarah's YouTube channel, which I will also link down below so that you guys can watch it, but I'm going to do like a brief summary. She uploaded this in chapters. So in the first one, she mentions why she didn't didn't end up going to the reunion, and it's because they weren't going to be paying her the fee that she was expecting, so she just refused to go. And even if they did, she was already hesitant because she didn't want to just be there having everyone screaming at her over things that weren't even true. So because of this, she decided to just release her own version of events. I will say this is all from Sarah's perspective, so just take that into account. So we have a screenshot of a DM from Natalie saying that she will make sure that the culture cancels Sarah. But then Sarah releases an audio where Natalie is saying that she doesn't think Sarah is a racist. In the audio, Natalie says that right now is just a really sensitive time, but she feels like Seven shouldn't have even said what she said about Sarah with regards to calling the police because she's white. But she finds it weird that Seven can say this ignorant comment, and it's just that, an ignorant comment. But with Sarah, it's automatically, oh, you're racist. She says that all of the girls there have said ignorant ass comments, but that she, Natalie, is willing to confirm that Sarah is not a racist. The next person to get an audio tape is Sydney. Sarah says that her and Sydney got close after the show, but that they weren't close on the show because Sydney thought that she was forming a friendship with Natalie. Sarah says that Sydney mentioned to her that she would not put hands on anyone else because she didn't want any backlash. And Sarah told Sydney, don't say that because Natalie is going to use that against you. Sarah then says that Natalie told her that the only reason she's casting Sydney is because she has issues with Judy. And also that Natalie told Sarah to call Sydney a man to start further issues in the house, but Sarah refused to do so. And I will say we did see Natalie do this with Judy on season 13 when she was telling her to throw the drink in Jada's face. The audio that she is going to be releasing though is cut off because what Natalie said was a little bit too mean and Sarah doesn't want to embarrass Sydney. In the audio, it's Sarah, Natalie, and some other guy, and they asked Natalie about Sydney, and Natalie calls her trash and that she's the first one now and they only have 3 episodes left. So this is during the season. The next person to receive an audio tape, oh my god, is Tanisha. So Sarah says that their relationship on Baddies ATL was pretty strained, and this was because of Natalie. So she shows us what Natalie has been saying about Tanisha. According to her, Natalie has been saying that she doesn't want to fuck with Tanisha anymore because Tanisha always thinks that I'm lying about my life. Meanwhile, Natalie is booked and busy and all Tanisha does is smoke and drink. The next people are Seven and Janelle. And here Natalie calls them bum bitches. She says that Seven just sits at home all day. Her stories are boring. All she does is grocery shop, go to her pool, sit on her living room. And I thought this was interesting because as we saw when Sarah and Seven were fighting, Sarah actually said the same exact thing about Seven, where she said that all Seven does is just sit around to look pretty. She doesn't do anything with her life. So I just thought it was interesting. Also noting that all of these audios are just of Natalie, even though Sarah is in the room. Sarah doesn't post what she said as well. I mean, maybe in her head she said it to Seven already, but Sarah had this same sentiment on the show. It's just weird that she's exposing Natalie for saying this when she said the same thing. I also wanted to include it because in the first episode, Seven says that Natalie wanted them to get the bag and promote their businesses. So it's like they're bum bitches. If Seven doesn't do anything with her life, like what business is she promoting? You know what I mean? And then specifically with Janelle, Natalie says that she wants to start a wig line, but it's been like 5 years and starting a wig line is not that difficult. And that supposedly Janelle told her that she got some investment money from some random men that she, instead of using her wig company, she used to get surgeries. The next person is Christina. Christina thought that they were besties, but of course Natalie wasn't her friend. But Christina kind of peeped that Natalie wasn't really like a good friend. Here Natalie says that yeah, Christina can sing, but she doesn't have a record deal. She thinks that Lemmy is just gonna pay for these things and he's not, specifically because she's on drugs and she needs to go to rehab first. According to Natalie, Christina's worse than Flo. The next part is the girls as a collective. And here Natalie complains that Seven said that if she was EP, she would have done this. And she's like, why is she even saying that? Because of the cast, they have to just dub the whole season. The next part is Judy. So when Sarah posts this, the reunion is happening. She says that because her and Judy are still friends, she's not going to be releasing any actual audio, but she does post screenshots of someone coming to Sarah saying, hey, like Natalie is threatening to sue me because I posted the audio that you posted. But Sarah's like, she can't do anything because Georgia's a one-party consent state. The next part is Sarah acknowledging that Natalie is saying that she's just recording recording what Natalie says and cutting out what Sarah says. But Sarah's like, I can say one word to Natalie and she will go on a rant. But she also mentions that Natalie was really upset when they let Megan into the house because she felt betrayed by production. As you remember, once Megan confronted Tanisha and Natalie about the screenshot of somebody being upset, Natalie was like, no, it wasn't really that you're coming to the house. It's more so the flyer that we had a problem with. But according to Sarah, that was a lie. She was actually upset about her coming to the house. And then she talks about a live that Natalie did right before the reunion with Judy, which I will talk about too. And Sarah's so proud of Judy for calling Natalie out in it. She says that it's really ironic that Natalie is so worried about editing when she's on a show that literally edits everything, specifically to make Natalie look good. She confirms that there were no edits on the audio. She also calls Natalie a compulsive liar because Natalie said that Sarah's hair care line is causing people to go bald and that she photoshopped some bald spots on Sarah's head, so she showed her hair and how she doesn't have any bald spots. And also that Natalie posted some Google photo about a pink car that she was getting, but she never actually got it because it wasn't actually gonna happen. And then she posts a clip from the live where Judy was dragging her. I watched that live as well. There was 2 lives. One where Natalie was already in her scrubs and the second one where she was like in these red pants and Judy was there. In the first one, when she was wearing the scrubs, which is what she wears at the reunion, she's there in the same room as Janisha, which I thought was Lemmy's like thing, but I think she also hosts. But here she gets a gift from Lemmy and it's a Fendi bag that she just gasses. And then another live, this is where Judy comes in and she's just complaining about Sydney to her. Judy just keeps saying like her transphobic ass comments, like calling her a guy, saying that she has whatever. And Natalie's trying to like explain to her like, hey, you can't say that because you're offending an entire group of people when you do. Judy's like, I don't care. Also, she showed me her area without my consent. So what about me? Like, no one ever sticks up for me. And it's just like a whole thing back and forth with them. As Natalie's trying to explain to her, like, you're offending a group of people, Judy's like, that's so funny because Natalie is the one over here saying nose too big. And Natalie's like, what are you talking about? So then Judy's like, on your season, you said that someone has a gorilla nose. And Natalie gets so angry. Is like, that does not exist. That never happened. There's nothing like that out there. And Judy's like, no, it's on TV. It's so weird because we know that that's true. She said that about Kendra and Portia the first episode of her season.
Too black. Her nose looks like a gorilla nose.
But she is so adamant that it's not true. And I'm just watching her literally lie about the situation. I've seen her act this exact way regarding other things. So now I'm just like, what else is she lying about? Like, that's the only thing going through my mind. Everything just combined, I'm gonna just not really take anything she says with any type of value moving forward. But okay, back to the reunion. Judy says that Sarah just felt really disrespected on the show. And Janelle's like, well, that's what the reunion is for. But we know why Sarah refused to show up to the reunion. Natalie says that she wants to take accountability and say sorry, but her feelings are also hurt. Because of Sarah, everyone's just coming at Natalie. I don't know. Christina says that she doesn't really care about an apology because she knows it's not going to be genuine regardless. But she feels like Natalie should also talk about what she's doing and like the things that she's gone through as opposed to just talking about what other people have gone through, especially people who have openly shared what they've gone through. And then Natalie's just like, well, Sarah's the one who told me everything about you. And like that, to me, that's just her trying to deflect the blame. Sydney then tells Natalie that her feelings are hurt because she called her trash. And Judy jumps in and is like, yeah, she also told Sarah to call you a man. Natalie says no. According to Sarah, she tried to. And then they just start arguing. And Judy tries to clear up the phobia allegations. So then Jason just shows a little clip show of all the times that Judy has been transphobic to Sydney. Jason's like, I thought you were on the show, but Tamar's like, I don't think she was. Like, I don't know how more you could be. But Sydney also says, I don't really think she is because we were friends. We saw someone like Tasha, like, I have so many gay friends, but I just think that it's wrong. Those people exist, unfortunately. But then Judy's like, no, yeah, we were friends. I love her. That's why Natalie's like, what? Natalie tries to explain why she brought Sydney here. Judy keeps interrupting. And then out of nowhere, Sydney gets up and just throws a bag of Cheerios on Judy. And again, just like the flashing thing during the training session, zero reactions, no noise. It was so awkward. On top of that, she spilled almost all of it before she even got to Judy. That was her breakfast in bed to Judy, just without the milk. You're still doing Bad Girls Club things when it's over. Jason wants to move on from this, but Sydney just keeps talking about the specific issue that they had with the Bad Girls Club, Judy calling her not getting casted. Judy is still saying like, no, you're just lying about it. Jason tries to ask Judy like, you know, you still made her feel bad, like how do you feel about that? And Judy's like, well, what about me? Like no one cares about me. And it's just like, oh my god, it's truly just two people like craving the attention and just fighting for it. At this point in the video, I was just so over it. I did not give a shit anymore. So I really do not want to talk about this anymore. It's so annoying. The only other thing that's kind of important is the fact that Sydney swears that she has receipts proving that Judy did in fact do this. But her receipts are a screenshot of her telling this random person, please, like, I will pay you anything if you can confirm this. And the person's like, sorry, I signed an NDA, but if you want to say something about it, like, you can for sure tag me in it. And this is Sydney's proof that it did in fact happen. And again, it's just like everything else that has happened with her this season. It's so awkward. Like no noise is made. Like everyone was just like, girl, no, that's not proof. That's nothing. Judy then says all you do is bully everyone else. And when they snap back, that's when Sydney's like, oh, you're just being big. And Judy's like, you called Janelle the T word. So then Sydney pulls out a picture of that female gremlin and it's like, oh my god, like it's Janelle before all her surgeries. And it's like, oh my god. It's not even funny. That's like the worst part. Like it's not a good joke because it's not true. They decide to take a little break so that production can clean up all the cereal on the floor. And then Tamar addresses Sydney like, you want all this respect, but you give literally no one else respect. Tamar actually walks off the set because she's like, what am I doing? Like, is this really my career right now? And like, I'm so sorry. She definitely thought this was something so different. The hosts tell the girls to stop interrupting. They will get to them and then try to introduce someone who's coming, which is Megan, and Judy interrupts yet again. Megan doesn't give a fuck about what's going on, but she does look really good, which I have to acknowledge. Sydney tries to confront her about not going to her birthday party, and Megan's like, they didn't really want me there anyway. She just doesn't care. They asked Megan, though, how she would feel if someone spit on her, and Janelle's like, addressing Judy and Sydney, like, they didn't even care. They slept in the same bed that night. Like, it's all fake. Don't even engage in it. And honestly, Janelle, like, I really do not want to. Moving on to the issues between Christina and Natalie. They ask Natalie how she feels about all of this, especially because of this post that she made. Natalie says that she has zero animosity towards Christina, and Christina's like, that's a really long-ass post. For someone who has zero animosity. And Natalie's like, well, you spoke about my daughter, that's why. So if she spoke about your daughter and you have animosity towards her, then you have animosity towards her. Why are you saying you don't? They show a clip of the live that Natalie's talking about, and in the live, Christina calls out Natalie's lash line from Dubai, and it's like, you guys really think that Natalie's in Dubai conducting business? No, she's selling. But then that's over, and Natalie gets so mad because she's like, you guys didn't show the rest of the live. Like, she talks about my daughter, show the rest. Natalie actually gets up and leaves because of how angry she is. And Tamar asks Christina directly, like, why are you saying this? Like, do you know this for a fact? Because she's married and like you're saying these things that could damage their marriage. And they also say that Christina is alleging the same thing about Janelle. And Christina's like, well, Natalie's things all over Google. And I will say, I try to look for it and I didn't really see anything. But Natalie's outside like, I don't care about who's selling what. Forgot to mention this is billionaire. Is this not the same kind of behavior she exhibits once she is proved wrong, or maybe she gets caught up in a lie, or somebody like says something that she doesn't want them to say? All of a sudden it's, I don't care about this. The live that they're showing this clip from is the same live where Christina says that Janelle bends over for old men. Natalie goes back in and they show the rest of the clip where Christina says that Natalie's daughter has nothing to look up to. And at the reading, Christina doubles down and is like, yeah, I said that and I meant it, but it wasn't anything to your daughter, it was about you. And she also says, you said the same shit about Seven too. But then Jason's like, okay, so then if it's wrong if she said it's Seven, then it should be wrong that you said it to her. Kind of like a double-edged sword, really. I just don't talk about them. Christina decides to just go up to Natalie and apologize to her, but Natalie mentions that she was sending messages to her daughter, and I'm just like, if that's true, that's such like a weird line to cross. And while they're trying to talk this out, Jason's in the back. This is bullshit. Like, she talked about the child. I'm standing up for the child. Like, something. He wants them to fight. Meanwhile, Tamar's like, no, like, they can just talk it out. But Jason's like, I don't give a fuck. a child was talked about, so I'm standing up for the child. And it's just like, bro, shut the up, please. They accept each other's apology, whatever. We move on. Not really. Because Jason then says, oh, Tanisha, Natalie also talked about your son, right? And then this situation was that somebody was sending horrible emails to Tanisha about her son, and she traced the emails back. And the first time it was like a random one, but the second time it came back to a location in the Bay Area, so she just assumed that it was Natalie. Natalie denies it. She's like, I've never made a fake account. I've never done that. That's not me. Jason then asks Megan about like what's going on, and Megan feels like everyone here is not expressing their true feelings because she saw online that a lot of them were saying they were going to do something, but nothing is being done. Tamara then says there's such a misconception that Black women have to fight to be entertaining, and she directs a lot of this to Megan, and Megan's just like, first of all, that's not what I said. I was saying that they were saying they were, but they're not doing anything. Not that I want them to do something. Tamar says we as Black women are just so much more than that. Then Sydney gets up and is like, that all may be true, but I'm still fuck Judy up. And then she turns around, she's like, nah, I'm just kidding. But this angers Tamar so much that she just walks off. Then Natalie passes her vape to Megan and Judy calls her fake, and this just turned into a huge blow up between them. Natalie feels like she's just babysitting Judy all the time, but Judy feels some type of way because of what she said on that one episode where Tanisha was like, she doesn't have a mom, and Natalie was like, are we really going to use it as an excuse for every little thing that she does? Jason asks Judy, because again, everyone's talking over each other, so he hears Judy make comments. So Jason's like, well, Judy just mentioned that no one cares about her parents passing, and no one even acknowledged it right now. And so Judy's like, yeah. And this sets Natalie off because she takes it as Judy saying that nobody cared that her parents passed. So Natalie's like, I did so much for you after that happened. Like, for you to say that is crazy. And she's screaming at Judy, mind you. Even Seven's just like, bro, this is what she's talking about. Like, this is why Judy feels so embarrassed and belittled by you, because you just scream at her like this. Natalie keeps saying, like, how are you going to say that nobody cared about that? I cared. My mom cared. We cared. Judy's just trying to explain to her, like, that's not what I said. I was trying to say, like, during that conversation, it seemed like no one cared about my parents. And so when Jason asked me, I was acknowledging, like, yeah, but regarding that situation. It's just also really frustrating because, like, even when he asks a full question, no one knows what it's referencing because no one can hear each other. Jason does say that a lot of people feel like Natalie would never treat Christina or Seven the way that she treats Judy, but I think it's more so that it's because Judy seeks this big sister in Natalie that Christina and Seven don't seek out in Natalie, so it's just a different relationship. And again, Natalie repeats that she only roomed Judy with Sydney because she thought they were friends. And then Judy's like, yeah, we are friends. And then as they're talking about something else, Judy is giggling with Natalie. So then Jason's like, Judy, I just feel like it's so weird that you thought that she disrespected your parents, but you're sitting there like giggling. Like, I can't respect you flipping like that. And Judy's like, what did I flip? Because I'm about to sit here and disrespect you. And then her and Jason go at it for a second. Like, why can't we be professional? I don't understand. But Jason's like, oh, that's so weird because Sydney threw something at you and you did not act this way, but you're acting this way with me. And then Judy's like, well, Sydney's a man. Yet again, after she just said that they're friends, she loves her, asked her for a hug. Sydney said no. While this is all going on, though, Megan stands up for Janelle and she's like, my friend does not sell. And Janelle's like, yeah, I'm not really a sexual person. And we saw in her season that, like, when the stripper was kind of on her, she was just like, ugh. Tamar finally comes back and they all go around and kind of give each girl a moment to say their piece. Megan says she just wants everyone to succeed. Janelle says that she wishes Christina just went to Janelle and told her about how she felt about Janelle's interviews, because in her interviews, Janelle was kind of making jokes like, damn, Christina must be on something the way she's acting. Like, it's not alcohol. There's no way it's just alcohol. And Christina took this kind of as her making fun of her previous addiction. And to me, it seemed like Janelle never knew that about her and didn't mean it like that. It was kind of like a joke because she was really doing the most. So it's like, damn, like it's something else, but it's like in a playful manner. But that's why Christina got so upset and she was talking about Janelle so much as she's saying that she's bending over for Christina says that she'll take that as just the end of this and that she doesn't want anything bad to happen happened to Janelle, but like she just doesn't care about her. Judy wishes everyone the best because life is so fragile. Danni apologizes to Tamar for being so extra. She just wanted a sincere apology from Judy, which Judy does give her. She says she loves her and she's sorry for like the things she keeps saying about her. Judy just feels hurt by Sydney, so in turn she tries to hurt her even worse. But she does say like, I did not call anybody to try to get you off of the show. So they actually hug it out. Seven says that she wishes everyone the best and that they were okay. Tanisha says that she's disappointed and she wishes that they could do more. Maybe if you were a little bit more active, they could have. She also says that she's typically so well received and this is like the first time she ever received a lot of backlash. Natalie thanks everyone for being a part of the show and she apologizes to Janelle about what's being said about her. She tells Seven that she's a great mom and Tanisha that she loves her. And that is pretty much it for the reunion, but I did want to go onto the rest of Sarah's little expose because she does release a little bit of things that I don't know if there's any other place I could include this. In part 9, Sarah says that the bags that Zeus gave the girls, the Fendi bags, are fake. Because of the way that they were packaged, they had like styrofoam on it, and she looked up dupe unboxing videos on YouTube for the same bags, and they all came with the same type of packaging. So she decided to go to the Fendi store herself and just buy the bag to see how it comes. And she deadass does a little vlog of her buying a bag. The sales associate confirms like, no, none of them come with that type of foam. She does say though, unless it's coming straight from the warehouse, but typically no. I mean, there's a possibility they could have just shipped it or something, but I just think it's so fucking funny that she did this. Part 10, Sarah says that Natalie called her to try to squash stuff, but then online, Natalie's saying that that never happened. She then shows us Natalie's lashes and says they're not from Dubai. She does go there to pretend to do business. Sarah calls her straight out and is like, Natalie isn't a. She's like, everyone knows it, but I'm the first to say it. Like, that's crazy. She also says that she did get all those procedures done, and she says that Natalie showed up to the Bad Girls Club season 13 in a girdle with lipo incisions as well. I mean, I'll say it again, like it looked to me pretty obvious. And then she exposes also the waist trainers that Natalie has because she noticed that Natalie doesn't put any type of logo on it, and according to Sarah, it's because it takes too long, so Natalie just ships them directly. And Sarah says that she asked Natalie like, do the fans get mad at you for doing stuff like that? And she's like, yeah, but like, who cares? So this could be a reason why when Sarah brought out the waist trainers when they were on the basketball court, why Natalie was able to snap on her so quickly about something that really wasn't that big of a deal. It could be because she was upset that Sarah was bringing her waist trainers that have the logo and everything when Natalie also sold waist trainers. And then Sarah posts screen recording of Natalie's story saying like, here is the authentication card and the serial number. And Sarah's like, girl, the dupes have the same thing. The way Natalie showed it, it was like upside down, and she was like, if it was real, it wouldn't have been upside down, or it would have been, I don't know, the way she explained it was weird. Just watch her video, she explains it much better, but she just kind of proved the positioning of the bag with respect to the serial number was the wrong way than hers that was a real bag. So she's like, they're for sure fake bags. I'm only including this because the way Natalie was gassing up those Fendi bags, and if true, if they're just fake bags, I think it's just like embarrassing the way she was like, yeah, see, Zeus takes care of us, Zeus gives us gifts, like trying to lure people into this network with these materialistic ass gifts, but then like if they're not even real, like that's even worse. Chapter 12, here Sarah says that Tanisha and Natalie were trying to figure out like what type of fake beef they could start. Someone suggested perhaps some fake emails, which was a part of the reunion, so maybe they were just fake the whole time, who knows. So if I were to believe these allegations about them faking these problems between the two of them, and maybe that's why Tanisha kept going back and forth with everything, like there's beef, there's no beef, because she just couldn't keep the story straight. Chapter 13, here the allegations of Natalie not being black get brought up, and Sarah says that Natalie is Puerto Rican and Brazilian, she's not actually black. There's a difference between ethnicity and race, so this one's kind of like a waste for me. There are Afro-Latinos, they can be from wherever and still be considered black. For example, I'm considered white even though I'm South American, which I have beef with because I feel as though if you go back just like 2 generations, you will find that my family were natives to South America. So the fact that I'm considered white is just so annoying, especially because the definition for white has been changed so many times. Like at a certain point, Irish people weren't even considered white. The fact that we're trusting the society that has changed that definition so much, and I'm forced to then use whatever definition that they chose. It's just so annoying. And I wish I knew where I came from so I can just be like, no, I'm actually an indigenous person. I have a strong feeling I am, but I have no idea. But here Sarah does apologize for the comments she made on Mistresses of Atlanta. She clarifies like she wasn't saying it, but either way, if she offended someone, like she's sorry. Chapter 15. Here, Sarah calls Natalie a Karen. I forgot to mention because here it comes up Natalie threatening to sue the T pages that we saw earlier. And at one point, Sarah did mention that the whole thing where Natalie tried to accuse Sarah of like loving to sue came up because Sarah mentioned that she has lawyer friends. So Natalie took it as, yeah, you have lawyer friends because you love to sue, something like that. It was really just perhaps like a comment that Sarah made regarding lawyers that Natalie could have taken the wrong way. But Sarah confirms that she's never sued anybody. Natalie has threatened to sue people. Sarah also leaks what they want to do with Baddies season 2, which is taking different girls from different networks and bringing them on to Baddies, which is kind of what happens. Chapter 16. This is a snippet of an interview that Sarah did with Natalie's stepmom. Here, the stepmom alleges that Natalie's dad was in rehab when they met and that she grew up very comfortably. The reason why she was able to travel so much, Natalie, was because her stepmom worked for American Airlines, so she was able to get very cheap tickets. However, they still cost money, and Natalie would just use her card and not even visit her when she was like in the area. Stepmom does confirm that Natalie's dad is Black, which like, yeah. She also mentions that she doesn't own the house that she says that she owns. She rents it, and that she doesn't pay her makeup artist. And the makeup artist never pursued those costs because they're scared that Natalie's gonna blacklist them. So I feel like that added just a little bit of extra content, just what I could find. I will try to link all of these lies that I found online. But overall, yes, I know this season wasn't the best. I'm acknowledging that. I know it wasn't the best. However, we just had to start somewhere. And unfortunately, even like the start of this show was just the absolute worst for me, and I had to do so much research on my own because it gave me nothing. Here we are. Nothing happened besides stupid ass fights, which like, are we surprised? I am curious to see where things go from here. Also, huge shout out to everyone who has joined my Patreon and my YouTube memberships. I was actually surprised when I saw how many of you guys actually joined, but truly your support means so much to me. I can never actually thank you guys enough. So now you can see yourself scrolling at the end of my videos. If you don't see your full names, it's because I censored out your last names because I didn't want to release anybody's identity. Like truly, I can't believe how long this list is. Like damn, it's just going and going and going. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Please let me know what you thought down below, and I will see you for season 2. Bye.
Blue dreams, I'm with the stars when I face blunt. She a nightmare, but it be hard for me to wake up. Let me know choice to cut off and get my cake up. Fuck a whole comments and my soul is all I'm saving. You